How's everybody doing? I hope everybody's doing wonderfully. Take a quick peek at the levels, make sure everything's sounding okay. Just want to make sure that my voice is coming through nice and clear. We get a good balance. So, this is usually a thing I kind of have been trying to do. I wasn't really satisfied with the way the audio sounded in the last episode, so I had tried some different filters, wasn't really a big fan. This seems to sound quite a bit better, so... Okay, let's see if I can hear the game and how the game sounds. And I got to do the same thing for you guys, so let me go ahead and move it over really quickly for you. Well, it doesn't look like my touch portal is wanting to work here. Let me see what's going on. Sometimes it needs an update or something like that. It's one of those things where it's really, really nice to have, but... Or it could be the OBS update, honestly. We're gonna see real quick. It's one of my replacements for a... Let's see. It's one of the replacements for like the Stream Deck. I'll just see if I can do that. And we'll reopen it. I am liking the way the audio is sounding, though. Sounding all right. So I hope it sounds good to you guys. And I appreciate you for bearing with me. Oh, I see what's happened. Aha, okay, I see what's going on. All right, one moment. I'm just going to give you some music for a second while I get this fixed. It's a real quick fix. It looks like it's going to be a little bit more involved, so I'm just going to do it the old-fashioned way for now. We'll just call that good. Okay. Let's make sure I sound okay. Nice and balanced with the game audio, hopefully. So far it looks like it, so... Alright, I'm going to go ahead and get started. Pull this thing out of my ear, sorry for the delay. So I think I'm going to figure out the, I'll figure out what's going on. I'll figure out what's going on with the touch portal, hopefully. I have an idea, and I think there's still a way around it. But for now, we'll just do it the old-fashioned way. No big deal. And if I have to go a different route with it, I can always do that too. So when we last left off, we had crash-landed on the planet surface of Telos. We have Kreia and we have Beodur, who we just met. And we're trying to get off of this planet, but we've crashed into these giant shields, which are part of what we call the Restoration Zone, or part of what is called the Restoration Zone. And they're Restoration Zones because apparently this planet was so war-scorched and so war-torn that it was all broken up into pieces. And there's a company called Zerka that's trying to prohibit that because they can actually make more money doing other things. What we're going to try to do is avoid some fights.
Right where we need to go. That sentry droid probably spotted us already.
They were probably looking for me when they saw your shuttle go down.
And I'm assuming that there's Zerka hired mercenaries as well. So we're just going to have to... What kind of mercenaries are they? Oh, they're just regular old... Okay. So let's choke that guy. This guy's got a melee shield. Lock onto the guy in front of me. There we go. Okay. But it won't work very well with lightning, which I will continue to use on you. Thank you. So, hold on, let me take these guys out, and then I'll recap on the exact nature of the story so far, because a lot of it we get to talk and have conversation, which I think is a lot of fun, but it's also... there's also a lot of story that we miss because these are talking. This is a very talkative game, very story-driven game. Force Pike, which I technically could use, but I don't think the damage is as good as the blades I have. Hey man, hope you're on for a while. Can't chat just yet. No worries. Hope all is well. So far, so good. I hope all is going well with you as well. Hope you're doing... Oh, I like the new logo, too. I hadn't seen... I don't know if I had seen that. Yeah, I don't think I'd seen that one. Nice. Okay. My apologies if it's been there and I just haven't noticed. Code locked. I can't use it. Okay, that's alright. Swoop bike. Code locked. Okay. I don't think we can use any of those. So far on the story... again, this story had a canon to it. It doesn't anymore. My character's name is Mitra Surik at the bottom there, and my character is a male, though in the original canon it was a female. It was the right-hand general of Revan, the super powerful Dark Sith Lord from the previous one that we played as. And we were a military genius, just like him, not quite to the degree he was, but pretty darn close. And so... We've lost our memory, we had our weapon taken from us, we had our connection to the Force severed, and we're just slowly regaining our connection back at the prompt of Kreia here, who we found by a random happenstance when we woke up on a mining planet in a KOTOR tank, which is the healing tank, which had been poisoned. So basically we were bathing in a heavily deadly, heavily absorbative poison, and we survived. And so now what we're trying to do is figure out, firstly, who did that, and we've kind of gotten in...
The mercenaries must be using them to locate us.
Let's see.
There's probably another patrol nearby.
We've gotten ensnared in this whole adventure of trying to figure out what happened to us, recovering our past, recovering who was trying to kill us, all that kind of good stuff. And right now, we don't really have good clues of that. They're gonna run right through the mines, aren't they? No, not quite. I'm not. No. Okay, yeah. I'm gonna throw this sonic grenade. I don't need it. Oh, I didn't expect it to do that much damage. Hello, folks. Greeting from Britain. Dr. Mad Studio. Welcome in. A return greetings and welcome from America. I am, if you've been under this channel under another name, I apologize for not recognizing you. And if you've not, and this is your first time in, welcome. The objective of this particular channel is fairly straightforward. We play games, we have fun, and we talk, we have good conversations. I am a humongous fan of KOTOR, so that's why we're playing KOTOR 2 at the moment. I've played KOTOR through all the way on the channel already. I like these kinds of games because despite the fact... no worries, I've been... Oh, it's a Cannock. I've been live stream hopping, lol. That's alright, no worries. I hop on, usually it's every Sunday around this time. Now, I don't know exactly what part you're in, but if my estimation is correct, you're probably somewhere close to the neighborhood of a 6-hour difference from me. Which would mean that for you, depending on the time here, it's probably somewhere around 7:35 p.m. For me, it is 1:35 p.m. So good time to relax. I come on around this time, but between about 6 and 7:30 p.m. That's what I was figuring. And so if so, I come on around that time just about every Sunday.
I always feel a sense of calm when I walk the surface of Telos. The Ithorians are truly amazing in their work.
The force is strong here. Whether Chodo and his herd has anything to do with that is another matter. Can you feel anything?
Let me make sure I've got... Oh, it's just... These answers aren't really...
That is good. As a breeze may swiftly turn to a gale, you are slowly beginning to be reopened to the force.
Okay.
Quiet. There's a large mercenary patrol up ahead. If we move carefully along the perimeter, we may be able to get by.
She got shushed and she didn't say anything, which is interesting.
Sure. I head along the cliffs to the south.
I think the shore is the best.
Close.
Yeah, I think the shore is the best. So yeah, this channel just something I do. I'm mostly retro orientated. Obviously, I'm going to play some of the new games as they come out, just because some of them are too good to pass up. A tremendous Star Wars fan, insofar as that I am a big Star Wars fan, not insofar as that I am tremendous and also a Star Wars fan. It's been years since I played KOTOR, probably not since I was in secondary school. That's fair. I remember buying KOTOR right when it came out. I remember buying the first KOTOR right when it came out and enjoying the heck out of it. And then I bought the second one, obviously, right when it came out, and it was a fan of it as well. And then more recently, so that's been, I mean, obviously 20 years ago. I was just recently able to get some autographed paintings and prints from the original artist, which I thought was really, really cool. Like I said, my favorite game of all time, and obviously it's well after I started, for, I guess, a sense of reference. I've said this before on the channel. When I started gaming, let's see, I haven't given Beodor a weapon, I've just noticed this. Let's see what happened here. Oh, I think I accidentally ripped the wire out of my controller. I'm using a Duke controller, by the way. Okay, there we go. Hold on, I want to stop for just a second so I can see what's going on here. Yeah, when I started gaming, just a frame of reference, when I started gaming was Pitfall was my game of choice. I played Pong, that was my first game, but then Pitfall was my game of choice for the Atari, the 2600, to which I still have my original copy. I'm going to switch to a wireless controller. Okay. There we go. I'm not much of a gamer these days. Excuse me. Life just gets busier when you're nearing your 30s. But I have played the odd PC game from my youth whenever I get time. That's fair. I do think that I think that people start to shift and realizing differences in priority when they near their 30s. I don't think I changed remarkably terribly in the gaming, at least in the gaming way, when I was getting near my 30s. Now, obviously, I'm past that point now, but I don't think that I was... I think gaming kind of always was a catharsis to me, and I think that even as an adult I recognized the escapism in gaming. Albeit up until probably very recently. This was probably one of the most effective forms of escapism for me. The Nintendo 64 was my very first game console, which would have been in the late 90s. Yeah, the Nintendo 64 came out in 1996, so I can understand that. So it was not... my first game consoles being a Pong console and an Atari 2600 eventually, which would have... those came out in the late 70s, I think. Yeah, I want to say by the time I got to the 64, that would have been my sixth console, maybe? And I remember playing the 64. I remember going and visiting with a buddy of mine, and he was a big gamer at the time as well, and he was like, yeah, you know, I'm gonna pick up this thing. He got himself a Nintendo 64, a couple of games. GoldenEye, I think, was probably the one we played the most since it was co-op. But being Star Wars fans, he picked up Shadows of the Empire. And I just was like, all right, look, man, let's take turns on this thing if you're okay with it. Okay, let's... And we did. We took turns with it. There was also a lot of other games that we'd try. Like, there was a rental period where we would go to a rent shop nearest us, and then we would... I'm gonna go ahead and sacrifice Beodor, so let's go into solo mode.
What is it?
Let's go.
I would... Rogue Squadron was your first Star Wars game? I guess my first Star Wars game was not the Atari Empire, which you would think. The Atari Empire Strikes Back. Okay. So now we have a clear enough path. I think that'll do. Yeah, I'll turn solo mode off. Let me give Beodor some weaponry. What was my first Star Wars game? I don't think I actually got a good Star Wars game until I hit the SNES. So I missed both the original Nintendo's Star Wars games, which it had two. It had Empire and it had the original Star Wars, just called Star Wars. And then there were a couple of games that came out for the Atari, which I didn't acquire until later. So I guess my first Star Wars game was probably Super Star Wars for the Super Nintendo, early 90s, I guess it would have been. And I played the heck out of that game. That game was... I've played that game on this channel as well. It was not a live stream, it was a post recorded one. Shoot. Okay, well. But nonetheless, I really enjoyed the heck out of it. Love GoldenEye as well. I grew up with the Pierce Brosnan films. He was very much my child. Pierce Brosnan is still my favorite of them. I've not seen all the Daniel Craig ones. I grew up... I had a buddy, and it was a competition between who was the better Bond, right? And this was between Sean Connery and Roger Moore in those days. Or between those Bonds. And so... and Pierce Brosnan came out, and I kind of really felt like he embodied everything that was awesome about James Bond. I have seen a couple of the Craig films, though, and he does a pretty darn good job, in my opinion. I mean, that's the way to do it. I love how she does that. It's like, oh, well, this thing didn't work. I guess another thing won't also. Another thing similar. I don't know why I don't just give Beodur. I guess I walked right into the cutscene. Back in primary school, my teacher at the time asked us what we all wanted to be when we were older. When it came time for me, I said I wanted to be Agent 007. That's an admirable wish, though. I mean, 007 is easily one of the most iconic, coolest, and I would argue somewhat more realistic aspirations. You know, if you say, I want to be Darth Vader, that's a lot more difficult. The technology wasn't there. Technology certainly wasn't there when I was younger. I don't think I ever really got... That's a stereotypical question in movies to get asked, right? Is, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I don't honestly think, thinking back to my early schools, I don't ever think I was actually asked that question. Okay, oh, no, this shield is a melee shield, so... Honestly, the remote's probably doing the most damage to her, but I don't have any gun proficiency at all. Yeah, I don't think I ever got it. Oh my goodness, you are frustrating, woman. I just felt he was the real deal, unlike most lads around my age who wanted to be Superman or play football. Exactly. Play football for England. No, that's fair. It's not... I mean, I'm not saying that it's impossible to be for example, okay? Supposedly speaking, right? Being a footballer could... I mean, that's somewhat realistic because it is an actual career that is depicted as its actual career. If you wanted to go and play for Chelsea, or if you wanted to go and play for Man U or any of that, you could. It's just a ridiculous amount of... It's a ridiculous amount of practice. You could technically attain the training necessary without a lifetime of practice and still become an undercover agent. It wouldn't be as glamorized as the James Bond films, but it would certainly be acquirable. So I can't blame you. Yeah, playing football over here is a twofold thing. You can play for the National Football League, so that's American football, and that's a pipe dream. That's a very, you know, 1 in maybe 400,000. Or I know that statistic probably doesn't cut out exactly. I'm just 1 in maybe 100,000 people. Or you can play football for America and run the risk of just being not as good as any of the other teams because we aren't. For anyone wondering, I live in Merseyside, which is in the northwest of Britain, not far from Liverpool, where the Beatles came from. Oh, I'm not remarkably familiar, at least in name, of Merseyside, but I am quite familiar with Liverpool. So, and I'm quite a Beatles fan as well. So I have that's awesome that you live so close to them. I didn't think to ask it just because information remains as confidential as you want. So I won't. Traditionally, I'll attempt not to prompt into things that aren't volunteered, so to speak. Definitely the Achani. We'll give you sonic nullifiers. Unarmed accuracy gloves because you have been going fist to fist. I will give you a regeneration package. Wait a minute. Can I have that regeneration pack? What do I have? Hold on. I'm sorry, one moment. I'm going to just take a quick peek. I have a reflex. Oh, because I can't have the... because my constitution isn't 14. Okay, that makes sense. So we'll give him the reflex package. 1 ranged shield, 1 Mandalorian melee shield, so he's got 1 for close-up. We will give him a cardio regulator, which will add to his fortitude. We will give him 1 melee, and his exchange will be a Systech Aural Blaster, and these are not balanced, so we will give him a one-handed weapon. Excuse me, I've got the hiccups. As to be expected, I am a music lover, but I tend to be old school when it comes to my hobbies and interests. No, that's perfectly fair. Yes. Much the same, I'm a music lover. I do happen to like a newer band as my favorite band of all time, which would be System of a Down. They came to prominence in the mid to late 90s, and rose to, I guess, mass popularity in the early 2000s, circa 2005, with a dual album release.
Landing pad. There should be a computer terminal I can access from there. Looks like we're going to...
Why did we cut this cutscene right there and the mercenaries are just going to let us talk?
Here, the Jedi saves us the trouble of looking for you.
How you doing? Hey, I'm doing all right, Ash. I hope you're doing well.
Maybe he does know what he's talking about.
I'm going to let this wait right here for just a second. Can I bribe them? I'm worth more than 500 credits. I'm pretty darn sure, so I don't think that's gonna work. Let's see. Yeah, I'm doing alright. I hope you're doing okay. I know we got to talk a little bit yesterday, but it's good. Left stuff in the 90s as well. I was born in that decade anyway. Yeah, so you could, technically you said you were approaching your 30s, which would mean that you were probably born anywhere between, you would not have been born any earlier likely than 93, probably 94 or later would be my guess. My youngest brother was born in 93. Yeah, so that's fair. I'm the eldest of 3. My youngest brother was born in 93. So, yeah, and I think I said 93 because 93 you'd be 29, but I was thinking that because he was born at the end of 93, which means he just became 29. So, 30 would be this year for most everyone else. And it will be for him too, but it'll be at the very end of the year. It's kind of an odd division I have in my head for that. Yeah, my very youngest, though, brother was born around that time. We'll just say he was right.
You'll see. You may have caught a few of my boys off guard, but let's see how you fight now.
I like the purple color of the armor. I don't think it's gonna do me any good. I do hate these shields, though. So how's everybody doing? Not much happening on my end, but that's to be expected in winter. Everyone's doing... I can't speak for everybody, I guess, in the chat. I'll say for me, we're doing well. Winter is my favorite season. I can't do sunshine for very long. So I have to... In summer, I have to stay all covered up. And, so it gets really hot. Other than that, it's not too bad. I do this every Sunday. I still play video games like crazy. Yeah, I still play video games like crazy as a form, again, of escapism. My wife, and then we play games with our daughter every night as well. She's a gamer too. She likes it. She's not quite the retro gamer. She's a little bit more new. I'll just be glad when spring comes around so I can get back into the swing of things. So I have to ask, what is it about winter that... Whoa! How much does she have left? 3 of 69. Guess what we're gonna do? Recharge. You can abuse the level ups in that regard. My question, I guess, would be, what is it about winter that slows your... quote-unquote... This isn't gonna do me any good. What is it about winter that slows your quote-unquote swing of things? And I'm good, not too bad. Good. I'm glad. Like I said, I know we got to talk briefly yesterday, but let's go ahead and 2-weapon fighting. But I think we were talking more technical than we were life, so. What else do I have? Let's upgrade that. And that, because I can affect more than one person. Yeah, what is it about winter that throws you out of the swing of things? I'm curious. I can understand if that it does that, but I'm not sure specifically, I guess. Okay, I'm gonna try and come and take this unshielded mercenary real quick. Since I'm using swords, and these guys both have shields on. Good lord. Hold on. I should be really good with the med pack. Yeah, okay, that's pretty good. Thank goodness. Well, everything really. Long, dark, cold nights. There's not much to do because of the poor weather, and I tend to have a lack of motivation because of the season's shortcomings. Oh, that's fair. That's okay. So it's a culmination of weather, but also of mood because of weather. That makes sense. I know that a lot of people are heavily affected in mood by how much light they have, sunlight they can get, and warmth by that too, so I can understand that. I'm quite the opposite. I much prefer dark and cold, and I do a lot of my best work at that time, when it's darker and colder, and again, I don't do... Even my dad can't stand winter weather. He works full-time as a freelance. Well, I can imagine, as a gardener, I can imagine, because you're not yielding as much if you're gardening for herbs and such. You're not yielding near as much, and so you're out in the middle of that doing basically maintenance, and the yield isn't going to really occur until September-ish. So I can understand where that would be a frustration. Yeah, like I said, I work as a I won't go into detail, I won't say the specific company, but I work as an auditor, essentially. Which is to say that I do a fair amount of traveling, and travel between locations on a pretty frequent basis. So I'm out in the weather, but in all honesty, it's not, you know, the cooler it is, the darker it is, it's just kind of nicer for me. But so, and part of that, again, I think I've said this before, part of it is where I live is the summers are really brutal. The winters are too, but the summers are incredibly brutal. We get about 10 months or so of summer.
We need to check out the computer console up on the landing pad, not go
We're gonna have to explore it. Okay, Beodur. Fine. So about 10 months out of the year are summer for us, even though summer is a, you know, traditional season. And for us, the average summer is somewhere close to about 50 Celsius. So just shy of 50 Celsius.
Hopefully I'll be able to access the shield.
Winter can get to be somewhere around the neighborhood of 32 below zero.
Now let's find your ship.
So it gets to this year, our hottest day was 49 degrees Celsius, and our coldest day was like negative 38 Celsius. It was cold.
Would be like sealing it in a hangar full of...
Granted, the weather over in the States is a different kettle of fish. Most of the time where I live in winter, it's just cold and rainy. Yeah, we don't get a lot of rain. We did get a lot of snow for some reason, but normally we don't get such precipitation. We had a couple of instances of, you know, 6-7 inches of snow here and there, but for the most part it wasn't remarkably precipitous.
Random flux than anything suspicious. It looks like power is being drawn to generate a shield over a small area in the polar region, but nothing should be...
At least my small pet project has kept me going, and I've got a convention on March 4th. So what pet project might that be?
I feel this is the best
I'm curious.
finding the Ebon Hawk.
If it's a convention, too.
That's a little tougher. According to the computer, the shuttle, at least there was at last report. I don't, but that's not going to stop me. I'm getting back to Citadel if I have to build a new ship myself. There's one other small problem. Recently,
I love Beodur's voice. I said that before. I like his voice a lot.
But it's not as though we have any choice.
Okay. About a month ago, I bought something off Etsy, a prop replica of the Blackwing virus from the Star Wars Legend novel by Joe Schreiber. Death Troopers, yeah. Okay. So, that's interesting. So, is this, what kind of a convention? Are you going to be presenting this, taking this to the convention as a, I'm curious. Are you going to be presenting this at the project? Are you going to be doing this as a part of a, of an elaborate cosplay, or? I'm not sure. I'm not sure. This is a prop itself is a medical glass vial, the kind you normally see in laboratories. On it is the label written in Arabesh language, as seen in Star Wars. Yeah, my phone is entirely in Arabesh. All of my text messages that come in, my YouTube is all Arabesh. So I'm infinitely familiar with it. And it was an accident. I think I've given this story as well on the channel, but I use an Android phone. I was going to have my titles for my folders where my apps are held be in Arabesh, just for fun. I have a Star Wars phone. I have the limited edition Kylo Ren Galaxy Note 10 Plus, whatever. And what accidentally happened is I accidentally deleted the English letter files and replaced them with the Arabesh font. And so now all of my texts and my phone, my weather reports, my applications, my YouTube, all of that is in Arabesh. So I've become I've been able to read it decent. I've been reading it now. I think it's been that way for, I don't know, maybe 5-6 months, and I'm just like, I'll just leave it. I can read it, so it's not a big deal. No, it's just something to keep my mind occupied. Oh, that's fair. That's all right. I mean, I have a plethora of hobbies that I like to go to. Not generally, again, escapism for me, I want to say this, and again, it's not to be exclusionary to the... Inside is this gray liquid with red spores that float about when you move it. I've also purchased a tube container to keep the vial safe from getting damaged. Oh, that's really cool. I actually would have to... I'd love to take a look and see what that looks like. That's really, really cool. I'm familiar with the novel. I'm definitely familiar with all of that, but I don't think I've seen the prop. Okay, I gotta figure out what was I doing? I need to... Yeah, okay, fine. What was I going to say? Okay, I'm gonna take these guys down real quick while I'm... Oh, yes. I know a lot of people, hobbies are a form of escapism, and it could be even from their own disposition, their own mood. I am very fortunate in that I haven't suffered from, nor do I suffer from depression, or any sort of depressive, any sort of issue that causes depression, or any of those types of side notes, which I'm very, again, I'm very fortunate in that regard, as I know many people are not that way. The finishing touches was adding some final stickers to the container, the Empire symbol, and the biohazard warning. That's really cool. And the biohazard warnings, I'm assuming, are also in Arabish. If they're not, it's still canon, right? It can still be canon because the English language is the printed English language is still featured in Star Wars, but it's considered a, well, I don't know if it's a new canon, but it was considered high galactic, is what it was called. It was considered for the wealthier people. So if you could read in essentially what we read in, which is just English. Then you could read it in Star Wars High Galactic. Be back in a bit, mates. Just sorting something. No worries, Ash. No worries at all. Oh, I was the perfect... I forgot those. Yeah. No, that's fine. I'm wearing a... You can't... I'm not affected by poison. I've got a breath mask on. I'm quite proud of how it turned out. Also, my friend Terry Cooper is more of a pro making stuff than I am. Oh, that's really nice. It's really nice to give him those kudos as well. I need to switch over to Beodur because he can break these force fields for me.
This arm of mine isn't just for show, General. Stand back.
I know, that's why I switched to you, so you could use Shield Breaker. Alright, well.
Berserker mercenaries were a little surprised when I broke my way out of my holding cell. The shields there were even weaker than these. After you...
Okay. Yeah, I gotcha. Okay. Anyway. Good lord. Anyway, my point being, or what I was saying was, I don't use it as a form of escapism from those. Traditionally, I use it as a form of escapism from people that are overly... well, I guess I'll put out the, not necessarily the mission statement, but I think that might be an accurate representation. He's a fellow Brit as well. He was born in London originally, but lived in South Wales now for 43 years. But has lived in South Wales for 43 years. Nice! Yeah, there's a, I was gonna say, my experience with my understanding of such territories is somewhat limited, including Wales, but it's not entirely, I'm not entirely ignorant of the geography, so to speak. Let's try. Have we detonated all of these yet? Okay, thank goodness. And also, I think of some of the politics. That's part of the... That was what I was going to say. That's part of the reason that I had started the channel as I had, is that... okay, I can't authenticate. Can Beodur? I can't remember. It doesn't matter. It won't matter. It can just break the shield.
I hear you.
That's part of the reason that I had such a hiccup or an issue with our politicking and such over here, because of it being remarkably divisive, and it's part of the reason I made the channel. It's what I was trying to say. Good lord. Okay, let me pause this so I can say that again. Part of the reason that I made the channel was a form of escapism from our politicking, which was remarkably divisive and was turning friends against friends. So, while I don't usually have I don't use it as a form of escapism of gaming and all of that, as a form of escapism from a poor mental state or a depressive mental state. I wouldn't even say poor mental state. I do use it because my external factors, which I do not have any control over whatsoever, were negative, and I didn't like that. I wanted to create a place that was kind of communal in positivity. It was kind of the shared, everyone was welcome, and the divisiveness would drop, and so. But I also understand where a lot of people who may use this as a form of escapism for being in a negative mental state are welcome. So. Right now, Terry's working on a Star Wars Andor cosplay commissioned for someone in Canada, I believe. He's been posting videos on his process on his YouTube channel. Terry on Tuesday. I'll have to check that out. I'd love to see that. What I'd really love to see if he's doing an Andor cosplay. Retro like Star Wars, but I do. I mean, 30 plus years of just enjoying the heck out of Star Wars and reading the books and all that good stuff. What was I going to say? Oh, Andor, I want to see how... I would love to see him make the Briar blaster pistol, good lord. Fun fact for anybody who has watched Andor, the blaster pistol that Andor is using is known as the Briar blaster pistol. It is the same blaster pistol that Kyle Katarn used in the old canon. It doesn't reload the same. They did come up with this kind of interesting rotating barrel aesthetic, whereas in the original it used the same clip as your traditional stormtrooper blaster. Shared cartridge. They show it canonically in that case to be sharing cartridges with it. So you could actually... I've been a diehard fan since I was 6 years old. I still remember the day my dad took me to see The Phantom Menace all those years ago in '99. Yeah, I watched it in theaters as well. I went and saw it twice. I saw it in '99, and then they came out with a 3D rendition of it, which was really cool in about 2016, I think. 2015, 2016, they came out with a 3D special showing, which was really nice. Of course, I went and saw 2 and 3 in theaters as well. I saw 7, 8, and 9 in theaters, which I'm not so keen on, but you know. Oh, but yeah, so Briar Blaster Pistol uses the same ammunition as the Stormtrooper E11s. So I'm a pretty big Star Wars fan. I like to say I'm a decent... I mean, it's not a competition, so I'm not competing with anyone. But I do enjoy the heck out of Star Wars. I started with the originals, so when I was growing up, 1, 2, and 3 didn't exist. 4, 5, 6. I watched the heck out of those. Started buying the books up, and so to date I've read somewhere over 300 and some odd of the novels. I've read several of the comics. I've seen all of the movies. All that kind of good stuff, just for fun. And I got into the lore for real fun. Now I'm not. There's more gas around here, I'm sure. Yep. Let me get them before they do. Haha. Kreia, you still walked into it. I've pretty much seen every Star Wars film at the cinemas, apart from the original trilogy series. Good lord, since those came out before my time. No, that's fair. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. You've no doubt still seen 4, 5, and 6. I'm sure of it. So, I remember when they had those come out on the original VHS, and I was actually talking with a buddy of mine the other day about the changes that they had made from the originals, because the originals, I've seen the Undoctoreds, right? The ones before Jabba was this slug thing that got walked over type thing. So, and we were talking about all of that. We were wanting them to release an original cut, which there is a fan project releasing it in 4K apparently, or at least attempting to. Now, whether or not they'll succeed because of the litigious Disney practices, I don't know. Deactivate local turrets, absolutely. So I'm a big fan. There will always be someone out there that knows more, right? So, but it's definitely fun to. There's actually a user on this channel that pops up, which I would say is probably one of the more definitive. Certainly someone who can go toe-to-toe with me on just about anything. About 600 Ewoks is his username, and is also a great friend of mine, so... I'm glad that so many people get so much enjoyment. I know a lot of people... This is the... was having this conversation the other day. My wife was a Star Wars fan, definitely a Star Wars fan, but she was also a Harry Potter fan. And I did not grow up with Harry Potter, so I'm actually just learning about that stuff now, which I think is kind of interesting. It's definitely... The books are, from what little I've seen, are pretty childish, and the movies, like, the first 2 or 3 I saw were pretty childish. But there were some dark themes, and I thought, well, this is kind of cool. I can see where people would get behind this. My dad saw Star Wars in 1977 when he was about 9, and Close Encounters of the Third Kind that same year. Yep. Richard Dreyfuss being an amazing actor. The first thing I ever saw Richard Dreyfuss in was American Graffiti, which was also a George Lucas project. It came out, I believe, in the late 60s. Yeah, Close Encounters is a phenomenal film. Wait, give me that metal case. There were a lot of good movies that came out of the 70s and 80s. Really, I was thinking about that the other day too. I was thinking about Terminator and you had Alien. Excuse me. You had Terminator. You had Rambo. Whoops. Oh dear. You had Predator. I mean, people. You didn't care. It wasn't about the depth of the storytelling. It wasn't even about world building. It was about cool action heroes beating cool villains. Terry works as a full-time. Terry works as a. Let me try this one more time. Terry works full-time as an illustrator for a publishing company called Candy Jar Books. He's done a lot of other things. Very much a jack of all trades. That's impressive. That's very impressive. Crea, if there's poison, you'll find it, won't you? I would love the idea of having a job like that. Again, I do enjoy my job. As an auditor, but it's I like the idea of working. I've always worked in a technical capacity. Like for the past, give or take, for the past 15 years even, I've been kind of in the same vein of work. I traded jobs before that, but it's almost always, apart from this job here and a stint where I worked as an instructor at a school, it's almost always been some form of information technology. And while I enjoy doing that, it's a very technical and it's a very left brain thing. And that's, to be fair, adequate, as I am a particularly left brain individual. I am a particularly logic driven individual. But I do enjoy artistic expression, and I do have the capacity for it in some way or another. It's not perfect by any stretch, but it's fun. And I would love to do something that is more along the lines of that. I think my mask is a little lopsided. It should be lower than that, but...
The hangar bay doors are closed. I don't fancy flying the shuttle through solid metal, so I'd say we'll also need to find the...
is that just an alignment issue on mine? Is mine just... Because that should be... maybe not. Okay. He began his career in a rap band called Best Shot back in the 90s. They only had 2 singers, one of which was United Colors, reached 64 in the UK charts. Very nice. Yeah, see, that's impressive. The thing about it is, the question, I guess, that comes out is, what is it that allows somebody to... And again, it's the formula has changed, so the answer that would have been given back in the 90s would be different than the one that was given in the 2000s, which would be different than the one in the 2010s, and now here we are in the roaring 20s. Again, the question I think I have in this is, what is the formula for doing what you love as a career? You know what? You guys can just deal with that. I hear you. Okay. What is the formula for doing what you love as an occupation? I think it's become infinitely more difficult because of the internet. And the internet has now given way to people that have more expressive artistic forms being able to advertise en masse. And the problem that that creates is market saturation, and it creates a fair amount of market saturation. So if someone is an artist, then they hypothetically can advertise their art on YouTube with now 10,000 other artists, whereas before, thank goodness, whereas before, it was, you had to be an artist who was of the, you know, who was the most talented and most available, and that availability played heavily into it. I think I would have a hard time asking that, because at this point of his life, he's done almost everything. Well, I think that's also a part of the grind, though, right? Is you have to be willing to do things, some of the things you don't want to do, to get to doing some of the things you want to do. But what was the, if you had to pick, you have this spectrum of job that you've worked, and it's linear now, obviously. If you had to pick, if you had to determine the point where you had gone from the spectrum of jobs that you don't want to the specific job you do, what point would you identify that as? I think would be my question. Did I not click open? I know there's a gigantic, it's not a basilisk, but I know there's a giant droid behind that I'm gonna have to fight, and I thought I just opened the thing. So anyway, I guess that's the question I would have, and of course I would want it to be base reactor is offline, cannot unlock hangar. Base reactor is offline. Hold on, let me look. What did I miss? Got you. Got you. Okay. I think that I could take more, or would take more time to articulate that perhaps a smidge better, to make the question a little bit more concise, but I think that would honestly be the question, especially for someone who seems to have the talent that he possesses. He's published his own 3 books, a sci-fi comedy trilogy called Kangazang, which is an homage to the works of the late Douglas Adams, best known. Yes, I'm familiar with Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, absolutely, which is a fantastic work of literature. In all honesty, I have not seen the film. Which is impressive too. I mean, I think anyone that can, world building is okay. I'm gonna get on a tangent for just a moment, but I don't know if anybody is. I don't know the level of familiarity anyone here may have with the D&D or Dungeons and Dragons aspect of things. But I've been playing for decades. Because my imagination is one of the most. No. My imagination is one of the. I still have video game. I've been playing a newer video game, obviously, and the back button isn't solo mode in that one, it's a map, so I'm still reeling from that. Okay, keep going down into the but anyway, my point being is, in those games, the DM, which is Dungeon Maker, Dungeon Master, Dragon, the person running the campaign, is responsible for building out a world in a way that where there's very little visual reference, and you are essentially creating a believable. Let's see. Never played the board game of Dungeons and Dragons, but I did watch the cartoon version on Fox Kids. I know of that one. I don't think I ever watched that, though, to be fair. Just open this up. So it's not a board game per se. I mean, it can be in some ways, but it's truly not a board game. It's a game where the entire story, it's almost entirely verbal. You have the DM, and his job is to make a world with villains and heroes, feats, weapons, powers, treasures, and consequence. And you have to build those worlds yourself, pretty well from the ground up. And there are maps on the table for reference, but you're really not using those maps for the most part. in a lot of instances, you're not really using those maps at all. You're kind of just everyone's kind of keeping a mental counter of where things go. And most of it's actually spoken. It's how would you react if this occurred? And it's my point being is I've done this, and the world building aspect of it is definitely difficult. I'm not part of the rescue team. Who are you? Zerka salvage team. Haven't been able to reach anywhere. You can follow me out. I need light side points for right now. Once we finish Nar Shaddaa, I'll go completely dark side. But I need Mira. I don't want Hanhar. I want Mira. So I'm going to continue on the path of the light for now. I technically could do dark side to him, and I would be okay. I would still be above neutral, but I don't want to do that. But anyway, my point being is to pay great respect to anyone who's able to and willing to build out their own world, and again, to make something that's believable or encapsulating for people, which I think is really nice. You have to be able to make it palatable. So, but I have enjoyed. I've enjoyed getting to do that. I've done it for some time. Most of my childhood, either watching TV, playing video games, or playing outside. I did once win at Monopoly back in college, all because everyone else in my class spend their money. Yeah. Monopoly is the game where. Did he not follow us? My goodness. Monopoly is a game. The history of Monopoly is complicated. Monopoly was basically meant to be a game which showed the evils of a specific monetary political system. And it became popularized by a salesperson who happened to be selling copies of the board game, so obviously their livelihood was dependent on how many sales they could get. So the message was furthered by that. It was I believe it was supposed to show you the evils of capitalism and how it would inevitably lead to greed, and that's why the game is as divisive as it is. Monopoly was, up until Mario Party, one of the most... Come here. Up until Mario Party, Monopoly was probably one of, if not the most divisive game you could play. Come on. If you can't follow me, I'm just gonna take... Okay, follow me. If you can't follow me to the door... I don't even... Come on. Okay, come on. Why are you just... Okay. Beodur, I think you're confusing him. If you're not intelligent enough to not walk into solid objects, then the most dangerous thing is not going to be me. Come on. Come on. Just you and me. I've told them to stay here. Come on. Most of my childhood, for frame of reference, most of my childhood, I did not live a privileged life, let's say, at least in my early years. So television was a luxury that we didn't always have access to. Housing as well, board games as well, and video games as well were things that we had luxury to only in certain circumstances and very finite conditions. And so, because of that, I spent a lot of time with, oftentimes, deck of playing cards. And I've actually done a... Okay, Okay, no, I'm leaving you. I've given you every opportunity to follow me, and you've failed to do so. Yeah, I've got like a several decade old now fascination with playing cards, which was kind of one of my most, it was one of the most inexpensive, it was one of my very first Christmas presents, was a deck of playing cards. And I'm remarkably grateful for it and thankful for it, because it remains a hobby now. Here I am well into adulthood and have been for some time. And it remains a remarkable hobby that I enjoy. Colin Baker, who played the Sixth Doctor in Doctor Who, did the audiobook version of the first book of the Kangazang trilogy, Remote Possibilities, which you can buy off Audible. I probably would do that then. I would love to take a look at it. I'm quite a fan of... I was quite a fan of Hitchhiker's Guide, so I would definitely take a look at that. I do have an Audible subscription as well. I'm back. How are we doing, lads? How's your Sunday been? My Sunday has been well. Has gone well so far. I've been enjoying the not being in the sunshine. Again, to Dr. Mad Studio, I can respect that sunshine is pleasant for most. I am the victim of a couple of conditions which prevent my ability to be in the sun a smidge. So I usually enjoy my inside time and sunny time, and then when the sun goes down, I go out and about and do my own thing. Both a skin and eye condition. So. Okay, thanks. But yeah, the Sunday's been pretty good. How have you been, Ash? I hope everything's been going well for you. Goodness. Let's do this. Droid machine interface. Okay. Okay, I know I have to bring the reactor back online, so I'm just gonna go ahead and... Pretty sure the reactor's behind this. Yep. Also, everything else is. Everything else is behind this. Now, like I said, I do know that I'm focused currently on retro games. Or I'm for the most part, I'm pretty focused on retro games. Dang it. I need to get critical hits off of the... Critical hits and mind affecting off of the... Because that counts as a critical hit. I need to get... There's a belt and some gloves for those. That'll help that. I've been writing down some ideas for our possible duo channel in the future. I'll send them to you at some point. Absolutely. Whenever you have the time. I'm excited to see what you've come up with. I can't wait to see Terry's sci-fi indie film, Off-World. It's all finished. He's just waiting for the American distributors to release it on streaming and DVD, Blu-ray. I'm excited to see... Here's the thing. As far as it goes with British... Okay. With British television, as it pertains to both movie and show... particularly show, let's say. I have really enjoyed a large swath of the stuff that comes out on the BBC or whatever else, and it's just a shame we don't get a lot of that except for via subscription services, which in a lot of instances I'm working to turn away from. Case in point, I just ordered the Dracula 3-shot, the 3-episode series featuring Claes Bang, who I also believe is a Welsh actor. But the Dracula series with him, which I thought was decently well done. Episode 1 followed the book decently well. Episode 2 followed it slightly less well, but also decently well. And then episode 3 was kind of an interesting speculation on the future of what would happen if, you know, Dracula existed in this time. And you can't find it anywhere here. You've got to order it special. And I was like, that's a bit... God, I hate English. Ash, you can't... Self-deprecating humor, but... Self-deprecating humor. Frame of reference to Dr. Mad Studio, as I am aware, Ash is an English individual himself. I gotta figure out where in the world I'm going. Okay, hold on. I keep hitting back. I keep hitting the back button. The map, damaged HK protocol. Program the droid to follow it. This is not what I needed. And the Welsh hate the Brits. The politicking of that I couldn't say. I love my fellow superior Brits. I haven't the foggiest as to what superior or inferior in that regard. I take my cases of superiority and What are we doing here, HK? That was more than a little unusual. Inferiority and superiority, in my opinion, are done on a classification base, not by anything regionally or genetically, but on something conversationally derived, generally speaking. Which is to say, if somebody decides that they want to be particularly rude and if somebody decides that they want to be particularly rude in a conversation, then I might consider their social skills inferior to that of the average conversation. That's kind of how I am. Why do you have the swords? Where are the laser blades? What kind of... So, my lightsaber was taken from me by the Jedi Order because I was basically given Jedi revocation. I was taken... I'm not a Jedi anymore. So I have swords for the time being. I have to build my own. Terry's next film outing will be a horror comedy, Bloody Students. I was with him several weeks ago during a YouTube live stream while he was going over the script. Retro is calling me rude. Streamer is rude. Unsubscribe. I wasn't calling you rude. I was saying that that was how I determined a thing that might be superior or inferior and how granular that particular classification was to me. That's what I was saying. I wouldn't call you rude. Well, unless, of course, you were being actually rude, or I thought that, but I don't generally think that, and I have fairly thick skin, so it wouldn't have really mattered anyway. But no, I don't think you're rude at all. I think you're hilarious. I would be interested to see Bloody Students... I'll allow it, I accept you. Nice. I would be interested to see what that looks like, too, as far as going over the script. Now, if there's a YouTube live on it, I might go back and look at the posterity and see if... I might go back and look at the posterity and see if see what that looked like, because that would be interesting. I do know, as far as a comedy goes, as far as horror goes, rather, some of the scariest stuff. I'm not really easily scared. Again, this is something I've gone over on the channel multiple times. There's only one thing I actually have a legitimate fear of, and that's time. Chronophobia. The dark doesn't scare me. I'm not scared of sharp or pointy objects. I'm not scared of guns. I'm not scared of anything like that. But I'm not keen on time. But I would love to see that. I'm afraid Terry has kept that live stream private because he doesn't want to spoil too much of it. Ah, okay, so it was just kind of a special live event wherein the people that were specifically there at that time got the spoilers, but then it wasn't left up just in case. Okay, well that's fair. I mean, that makes sense. I can understand it. Either way, still very, very cool. The film will be a cross between Shaun of the Dead and Night at the Museum. Oh, okay, that is an interesting concept, actually. I think those two would cross quite well. I was going to say some of the more... I'm going to put this in air quotes, which you won't be able to see because this is an audio... I'm only audio in this. Is the scariest, air quotes there, thing that I think had happened rather in a lot of these, especially in video games, are the high school horrors where you're... we were playing one and I cannot remember what the name of it was. We were playing it on my wife's channel. It was a PlayStation game, and it was essentially you're a high school student trying to survive being stuck in the school through the night, which is heavily haunted, quantifiably, not just speculatively. And it was really interesting to see how she gets a little bit more spooked at things like that, but it was interesting to see how much of that was legitimately nerve-wracking. Like even just the gameplay, which had an air of tension the entire time because of you trying to sneak away, I thought was really cool, really interesting. So, I think that would be really cool. I think it'd be really fun. Ju-On, I think, was another one that did something like that. I know Dread Out did something like that, so... There are a lot of really successful... And the problem with that particular, and I say problem in an ironic sense, is that sense is... that genre, that specific niche of that horror genre is, I think, difficult to exhaust. I think it does a pretty darn good job of staying fresh. If well written, of course. Probably the scariest game I've played back in the day was Max Payne. Even though it's an action-based game, it has elements of horror like the Nightmare levels. You talking horror? I'm in. Yeah, Ash, we are talking horror. Max Payne... I never seen Max Payne as a horror. I always saw it as a kind of a Punisher game. It always reminded... I mean, it wasn't the Punisher, obviously. I've played that game too, but it was kind of similar. I do like Max Payne quite a lot. I know they're remastering the first two, and I did enjoy the third one. What is one of the most horror... okay, well, we're doing this. Tank Droid. What is one of the most horror... so, I have a couple of games that I think are scarier. No, not scary per se, but they were scarier. I think I've cited this one a couple of times as one of my top tier ones. And that is Waxworks, which is a PC game. You can buy it on GOG.com if you are a fan. And part of the thing that made it so scary was that your character was not staged to have any sort of major skill set. So like Max Payne he's got the guns. I know collision articles go away whenever they fall, which is brilliant because you can accidentally get stuck in them if you didn't do that. The old orbital shuttle doesn't have a hyperdrive, but it can get you out of the restoration zone. Once you have the ignition passcodes and you open the underground hangar doors above you. I'll step away from the shuttle. The crying baby, Max's wife screaming, long corridors, and that dreaded blood rope that you had to walk on without falling. Yeah. No, it definitely has. I think the thing that it does really well is it definitely sets up the stage for the mental and emotional anguish he's going through from losing his family. And I think part of what it does is it plays up to what's going on in his head very, very well. It's not just a matter of what physically is happening, but it's the element of what he's having issues with. A trend in horror games I'm not a big fan of is the run and hide and locker genre. Well, I know, I agree with that, but also we were talking, I think, if I'm not mistaken, we were talking about Outlast, I think, last time, which also has a good portion of that. Evil Within was the game I was trying to think of last time, which also has some of that. And I think Evil Within's actually a pretty solid game. I just didn't really play many horror games for whatever reason. Yeah, I enjoy horror because I'm not... Outlast does do it well, but it does still fall into that same... category, though, of the run and hide and lockers. But it does do it well. I agree with that. What else does it? Resident Evil 8 did that, too. I had a section of it, which I think did it really well. Horror and sci-fi will always be my two favorite genres. I enjoy horror, sci-fi, and fantasy quite a lot, and I don't know which I enjoy the most, to be honest with you. I do love horror quite a bit, but again, it's partially because of it being fantasy laden. Because I don't find a lot of it scary. Again, Waxworks being one of those that I think was legitimately disturbing. And what? Oh, okay, I didn't have the ignition passcodes. But saying that, I did watch plenty of horror flicks, thanks in large part to my younger sister, who used to lock herself in her room and watch God knows what. Well, that's true. That's almost a scarier prospect than the horror movie in the first place. The game that I was going to say, hold on, I keep hitting the back button. Okay, workbench, lab station, excavation site. I have to remember what I'm doing here. What was I going to say? Oh, Waxworks. Waxworks. It came out in 1993, I think. 1993, 1994-ish. And it was, I thought it was pretty terrifying for what it was. I wasn't scared of it, but I thought it was pretty terrifying. Firstly, because, again, I think that pixelated imagery, 16-bit and the like, those pixelated sprites were made really well. And they were definitely made to be, you were basically Joe Everyman. You didn't have a great defense. You were the cousin to this ancient evil. You were put out there. You were thrust with responsibilities amongst these horrifying things. You could literally have anything happen. Your head could be ripped off. If you were a tryptophobic, you could have hives inserted into you and die from becoming a beehive. I mean, there's just so many things that could happen to you that were terrifying. You could be aged to death. The one thing that I legitimately find terrifying. Okay, that's what I was looking for right there. I was so fortunate to have met Freddy Krueger himself once, Robert Englund, one of the nicest guys you could ever meet. That's what I had heard, although I'd never had the fortune to meet him. I had heard that he was, ironically, one of the kindest souls that were around. Forspoken is a great horror game. The dialogue is terrifying. I'm not even going to mess with that game for now. I've seen snippets of it, and I think it's just ridiculous. I think it's just ridiculous. So far of the new games, the ones that I'm most fascinated with, and the ones that I've enjoyed recently, in March, my key purchase will probably be the Castlevania Dead Cells DLC, which is a $9.99 purchase, which I'm incredibly excited about because Dead Cells is a procedurally generated game. I wonder if the Castlevania will be the same. If it is, I'm a tremendous Castlevania fan. Alright, we're gonna go to the polar region. Did I ever play 2017's Prey? I played a little bit of it, but I did drop it in favor of playing the Dishonored series again, so... I went from Arcane to Arcane. I do have it. I have it for Xbox. Yeah, so for March will be Castlevania. For April will be Jedi Survivor. For this month, or late last month, whichever it was, I think it was this month, was Hogwarts Legacy, obviously, so. Prey is incredible, that's what I've... No RE4 I thought RE4 Remake got moved back to, like, June.
However, the SHIELD network does not stretch over the polar region, which was the shuttle's apparent destination.
Or August, something like that. The #1 horror film that haunted my childhood was Dolly Dearest. What's worse is that my half-sister used to have a small collection of dolls on the shelf of our bedroom. Oh, shoot. Yeah, that would be... Yeah, if that were your... I mean, that could be... So, I'm going to go ahead and give my phrase again for mine, and this is just... and I say again, not because I've said it here on this stream, but because I've said it. So if Ash has been on my streams before I've said this. He's probably tired of it, but... I never was scared of the horror, like the Jason Voorhees or the Freddy Krueger. I was never afraid of them. And the reason is because there's a very, very small chance that me that I'll wash my face one day and look up in the mirror and find one of those guys behind me. There is, however, a great chance that one day I will look up, which is why I'm afraid of time, and find 60 looking me right back in the face. And hopefully not a rough 60, but still 60. And that could be scary. Oh, March. Okay, I thought it got moved back to... I don't remember why I thought it got moved back to June. Okay, yeah, I'll definitely be picking that up in March. I've never been here before. I don't even know who you... Yes, you do. This is crazy. So every night I would leave the stairway light on, afraid that they would come down from there and kill me in the pitch blackness. See, I can see where that would be horrifying if that were the predicament I was stuck in.
Clarification. Unnecessary addendum. Unnecessary clarification. We merely wish to cripple your vessel once we track your probing query. Eager threat, but we self-evident answer wherever you try to run.
Dolls do some damage in numbers, but you can win though. The scariest instance that I would say has happened with dolls, and again it's not a doll, but is the Resident Evil 8 The Village thing. I think that... Okay, I've got to be careful. I remember these guys being a little bit tough. I could have remembered wrong. I do know I need to pick up something from one of them, though. So I've got to be careful, because I think there are 4 pieces, and if I don't gather the correct 4 pieces... I believe this is the only unrecoverable piece, to be fair. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and abuse the level up really quickly. Persuade, repair, treat injury. And now we are back into powers. Let's upgrade push because it's universal, so it'll do us well in both instances. And we'll auto level Kreia to get her health back at, and it's fine. Okay. I was hoping Terry was going to do a live YouTube stream tonight, but he's probably busy with stuff. Can't blame him, really. It sounds like he's busy fairly frequently with a lot of great stuff, though. So, I mean, obviously it's understandable. Okay, so he should have a chassis. No, he's got the control cluster. So there are 4 pieces. I want to build my own HK unit. In order to do that, I have to acquire 4 pieces, one of which is the vocabulator. I've already recovered that, and I learned the hard way that if you do not recover that, it is unrecoverable because you won't be able to travel back. It's on Paragus, where we were at the beginning, and Paragus blows up, so you can't go back to Paragus. So if you don't recover that, and if you don't recover this, I guess, it's also unrecoverable. You don't get to come back to this. Other than that, I believe the other 2 pieces are located on areas that can be revisited, which I find to be really, really frustrating. But I kind of understand. I mean, you do get 9 party members even if you can't build an HK unit, so... yeah, for let's see, his last His last cosplay, he made a full-size replica of Marvin the Robot from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Took it to Comic-Con Liverpool last year for a cosplay competition. Sadly, he didn't win. You build a full-scale replica robot from one of the most recognizable parties and franchises. And you don't win. Either that is remarkably poor judgment or remarkably stiff competition. I love horror though. I love the classic horror. To going back to what we were talking about earlier, I do love classic horror. I was spoke to Ash about it.
Lay down your weapon.
He's to make a Babu Frick robot instant win. Just walk in and hey, Babu Frick here. Try something like that. You can no. You can have. Tell me about it. I've seen other cosplayers. Some were good, but clearly Terry stood out the best.
I mean, why did they lock us?
Classic horror is the best. Classic horror is the best. I'm a big fan of the Hammer horror films.
What?
Well, I showed you. I think I showed you in the Discord, rather, that I wear one of my EDCs, right? Everyday carries, everyday wears. Is I wear Dracula's ring on my right hand. I actually had the fortune of acquiring one of the original rings. One of the original and officially licensed rings from Dracula. The Marvin Terry built was based off of the BBC 1981 TV series version. Oh, that's really cool. Still, that's the thing. That's an impressive build.
What is it about this?
Yeah, that looks cool, man. I can't wait to steal it when I come and visit. I don't think I can let you steal that one, Ash. I can help. I can talk to my buddy about making you a copy, but I don't think I can have you have the same one. But I had the fortune of getting one of the original licensed rings from back in the old, Universal 1930s, all that good stuff. And I happened to have a buddy who built me when I found out that was one of the originals. I'd been wearing it and hopefully not devaluing it too much. And then
and the why?
When I figured out, somebody put it there were only a couple of those that were made, and so somebody put up a that one of theirs for auction. And it went for a really ridiculous amount, and I was like, I don't want to wear this anymore. So I put it up, polished it up. I didn't clean it per se. I just wiped off dirt and dust, very cursory. And I had a buddy make me a duplicate, and the duplicate's pretty decent actually. Made of the same materials, just not near as old. It's made of silver and carnelian, so.
That's possible.
Terry had to sell off the costume a while back to help fund Bloody Students. Sometimes that happens. I can understand that.
And it leaves
Oh, of course, that's what I meant. Misspellings. That's funny. And it's understandable, but if he can make something like that, then that's a really interesting way to... I mean, that's a good way to do that. If you can build something that gets sold like that, that's the nature of entrepreneurship, so that's really great.
Even one such as you can feel it. You will serve until I release.
But yeah, so I now wear a very high quality replica on my hand that I had made.
Will be broken.
And I have the original one tucked away very safely in a nice, very safe spot.
Lands of your choices, you will never leave this place. But whatever fear you
I did say Terry is a jack of all trades. Well, entrepreneurship, I think, is the fundamental basis of all of his jobs at this point, it seems.
That has long hounded you.
He has to sell an idea, he has to sell a talent, he has to sell a vision, things that aren't really tangible, or even while on paper, not particularly tangible, so... which is good, which is really good.
Bother with me is a bigger mystery.
No game of
but yeah, I'm a big fan of horror, to that point. I'm a big fan of sci-fi, I'm a big fan of horror. I'd love to see that, so it'd be really cool to see Bloody Students. I would like to take a look and see what that looks like. So I will be doing that once I'll probably off of the stream. I'll take a peek at that and see what I think, and hopefully when I come back I'll be able to speak on it a little bit and give my impressions if that's welcome. He's even got his own IMDb. I can't say I'm a bit jealous of him. IMDb is it's so polarizing though, because it's really great to be acknowledged for talents, but it's also really it's also really an unenviable thing, at least by my perspective, to be put so publicly in front of everybody in one format or another.
But someone has to fly the ship.
This right here is a public thing that I control, so I'm doing it within the parameters that I am okay with, and so to be thrown out there in a way that's slightly more objective and there's not as much of a control element, I think is a little dangerous, or at least I'm paranoid of it. Fun fact, me and Retro cosplayed as stormtroopers back in '85. We ran into these troopers who wanted us to go underground fight club. Funny thing is that I'm talking absolute... Yeah. Well, it would have been fun. That sounds like a story that could have been true, though, yeah. I mean, odds are that something like that has happened to somebody, probably. It just didn't happen. It just didn't happen to us. Yeah, I was gonna say, as far as the comedy and the horror that goes, I mean, that's pretty. I'm much more of a drama than a comedy person. First rule of Fight Club: you don't talk about. That's absolutely right.
I expect to see you again after the day of your sentencing. I thought you had taken the exile's path, wandering the galaxy. Yet you have returned.
All right, you
Why?
pretentious son of a gun.
Your concern is noted. Your friends have not been.
It's not my concern. My concern doesn't need to be noted. My question needs to be answered. That was the nature of this particular verbal transaction.
I had thought you had forsaken the company of others after the.
You guys just broke the first rule, amateurs. Let's see. Okay, I'm just gonna do this one.
Yet here you are. Perhaps you do not know yourself as well as you think.
I really dirtied it up.
Your arrival here.
Fight Club is great. That's a good movie.
The judgment of the council, as you did so many years ago.
I'm much more like, again, I'm much more of a drama and a much more of a horror than I am a comedy, but I do enjoy comedy. It just depends on if it's really. Comedy is so polarized. Everything is so polarizing these days. Speaking of polarities, right, and speaking of ridiculous polarity by my estimation, I was doing some research the other day, and it wasn't random research. It was pointed, but I was playing Hogwarts Legacy. Okay, I have it on the Xbox, and my wife and I have been playing it. Her profile, my profile, and I don't know anything about Harry Potter, so this is kind of my introduction to that world. Really, it's a very big part of my introduction to that world. And so we're different classes, or whatever the houses. I think actually the green, the blue, the red, and the yellow. Right? We're in different ones. I'm in the green one, and she's in the blue one. I'm a different kettle of fish. It's what separates me from the connoisseurs. That's good though. That's the idea is to be. The idea is to be uniquely and unapologetically yourself, and that's exactly what that's what I respect most. This again, this is a place to just come and talk and have fun and offer opinion, and that's okay. But I was talking about polarity. I'm saying this is kind of an interesting piece. I was doing some research. I was trying to figure this out. She said 1 week, and I'm using. She's. We were anyway. Sorry, we were playing the game. We were going. She's kind of introducing me. She knows more than I do about it, and she's not necessarily a diehard, but she knows. And so I decided to do some research of my own because I wanted to figure something out. Now I had to throw this out there. I've gone to a couple of weddings in my day, and I've gone to even a couple. It's a cool place. It's a cool place here. Retro pays me £20 each comment. That would be if I had so much money. Congratulations, Ash. You've just earned £60 just there. I see what you did. 80 technically, but yeah. No, that's. If I could afford to do something like that, I don't think I would do it for a comment per se, but if I could afford to help fund people's dreams, I would absolutely do that. What was I saying? Oh, and I'm still waiting for Bob the Hobo to pay me that £50. The debt ain't gonna pay itself. Yeah. Shoot, I gotta get on my topic. Oh, I'd gone to some weddings, and I've gone to a couple of weddings that were Harry Potter themed. I had one of them that I was a groomsman in. I had a couple that I was a groomsman in. I had to do the test. This website gives me this website, and
it only led to your exile.
just some British humor. If there are going to be points in time where I'm not going to get the reference, and I'll be as forthcoming when that happens in this particular instance. As that kept, I was under the assumption that it was playing into the previous comments, but I could have been wrong, of course. But anyway, I was doing research, and I was trying to look it up, and I was trying to figure out what was going on, because at one of the weddings I was given a wand.
They urged caution.
And I didn't know whose, I do now, but I didn't know whose wand it was, what it represented. He got them for all of the grooms, he got them for the entire the group of people. 150 people were there. He got cheaper ones for everybody that was kind of part of the, I'll call them congregation, but the people that came. And then he had, I tried to do a test, it came back positive. We've all been for the street. That's not what happened. It wasn't that kind of test. It was to figure out which of the schools, the houses, or whatever in there that I was in. It found out I was in the green one, right? Whatever. That was what happened. It wasn't that kind of a test. He gave me a website. He told me, he said, this is how in depth of a this was 10 years ago. You know, this is how in depth of a fan he was, though. He had me go and do that test, figure out which of the houses I was going to be sorted into, and then that was going to be my dress code. So I got sorted into the green one, so I had to go and get a green dress shirt and a silver tie to go along with my suit, my black suit. And I was going to be a groomsman. All of the groomsmen and the bridesmaids were given wands, each one different and each one supposedly significant. I had no idea up until just yesterday whose wand I had. And I figured it out, and I did. But anyway, I was doing research, and while I was doing research to figure out who this was, because I'm getting into this world as fantasy, and I came across accidentally an article that was like how to hide your achievements, how to hide your Hogwarts achievements from friends you don't want to know that you're playing, and I'm like, I don't, what? Like, I don't care if you know that I'm playing. And you're fundamentally in disagreement with me, then you can confront me or you can leave it be. I don't particularly care. Let me see. I remember a random person once rang me and I said to him when I didn't mean to. Well, that's what the FBI stands for over here, right? Well, that's what the joke is. Obviously, it doesn't stand for federal. It stands for Federal Bureau of Investigation. But there are a lot of shirts, I'm sure, in circulation. Probably there too, where it's FBI Female Body Inspector. I'm married, so I'm happily married too. So I'm not going to inspect any female bodies but that of my wife's. But I understand the humor in the acronym. My favorite thing on the stream is to see how many comments of mine Retro will read and get distracted while telling a single story. It does take me a while to get through stories, but I want to make sure that it's worth it, because I want to make sure I'm interacting and talking with you. Oh dear, I'm going off one. No, that's all right. That's all right. Back in '79, me and Retro were a wrestling tag team called the. I mean, it got awkward, you know. Retro's happily married. We live a happy life. She got to me first, man. She got to me first. Oh my goodness. But anyway, point being is I thought that going to the other one, I thought it was,
there was much about that day that
I thought that it was kind of silly that somebody was putting up a published article on how to hide your.
I would never forget.
Oh, you kept my lightsaber?
Indeed. A lightsaber is the mark of a Jedi. When you turned your back on the Order, it was not you.
A lightsaber is actually just the mark of someone who can build a lightsaber, which is why the Sith, who are not Jedi, carry them as well. So that's a really fallacious argument you've just made.
Your insult to the Order.
Become
a Jedi again. That is a thing far out of reach.
Says one with arms and vision too short to manage it. Left is right and right is wrong. East means west and west will always win. Everything is confusing. And again, I'm not sure if that's something in a specific reference or if that's something in reference to kind of analogous to what I'm saying. But I don't disagree that the escapism of gaming has become the divisiveness of politics, and it doesn't make any sense.
So your choice was to meet the aggression of the Mandalorians with more aggression. That is not the Jedi way.
You're a bit pretentious to assume that you understand the nature of circumvention.
Every choice we make, whether we know it or not, sends echoes through the Force. It can awaken feelings.
We have a little puppy dog out there, and she's just making all the noises.
Where none existed before.
She's a baby girl, and she just makes all the noises. I don't know why. It's really cute.
You and those Jedi who met them on the battlefield.
It's a reference. It's a reference to the 1989 English show Jalil. Something tells me that I mean, well, I'm not gonna say something. Something doesn't tell me. The evidence is in the statement, 1989, and that there is a statement in there that would probably have been censored in 89's British television, but maybe I'm wrong. Pass the biscuits. Again, I can't help it. I know what biscuits are for you guys. And I know what they are for Americans, and I know what they are for us, which I'm in the southernmost part of the United States, so biscuits are a different thing for us too. I can't stand Atrius. No, I can't either. She's incredibly pretentious. She's remarkably frustrating, especially when you figure out, not Atrius, that's hurtful, banned. Especially when you learn more about the story as it progresses.
No, you lost yourself.
See, like right here, she presumes to tell me where I was. In my life. Only Fools and Horses was my dad's gem back in the 80s.
There was no guarantee that marching to war would have saved the Outer Rim. In fact, quite the opposite.
No talking, you're getting an F. Hello. Everyone's dead. Not one I'm familiar with, sadly. I am familiar with stuff. I was say, if I wanted to pick, I liked like a bit of Fry and Laurie and stuff like that. I don't think I saw that.
A physical victory, perhaps, but the real victory lay in... Do not twist my words.
I'm not twisting your words. I'm adding meaning to them because otherwise they're hollow. Yeah, oh, your words would have rung hollow if the Mandalorians had crushed the Republican cross. Yeah, they already did. If we had not acted, thousands of worlds would have been pillaged, and how would people... But if we listened to you, we'd be hearing it in Mandalorian.
You do not know... How dare you?
Yeah, there you go.
The Mandalorian Wars should have been your grave, and Malachor 5 is where you should have died.
Watch. Yeah, you said to do that, and I've got it on my list. I haven't had the time yet because the director of my area was coming back from paternity leave, and so we had a lot of preparation and catching him up to get done in work, so I wasn't able to do it this week. I played the games I've been playing was like yesterday for the most part, so I met John. I'm going to assume that it says Chalice, I guess, at least twice. My first meeting was with him at the Wigan Comic Con back in 2015, and then the second time at Ellesmere Port Comic Con in 2019. Nice. Wonderful guy. Always had time for the fan. He was a regular on the convention circuit for many years and would sometimes attend with fellow co-star Sue Holderness. Shayleys? That makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. I was really sad to hear of John's passing when his wife Carol broke the news on the Twitter account. I know she visits his grave every now and then and leaves him some flowers, or leaves some flowers for him. It's also not pronounced that way, I'm sorry. Well, so the thing about it is, and of course I'm sure it's the same thing, but is double L's can be a lot of, so chalice, or double L's are, where I am, double L's are almost always Y sounds. So it would be Chais. Boise will always be my favorite character from Only Fools and Horses. Ah. I'm sorry that I haven't the experience to speak on that, except for to say that I would offer condolences to anyone who's mourning the passing of an icon or a family member or friend. I think we lost Burt Baccarat recently as well, which I was a fan of his he kind of had these soft piano ballads which were really beautiful.
You see shadows where there are none, and hate where there is none. You are blind as always.
And you
I'm
are
tired
foolish
of
as always.
fighting with you. You lust for war, and you always will, and you have succeeded in distracting me from my questions. So answer me. If you cannot seem to admit the council was... Your ship? Ah, the Ebon Hawk. It is not your ship. Of course you admit nothing. That would require... You have not changed.
Let's see.
You know.
Let's see.
It was too much to hope that you may have come here to finally admit the council was right.
Oh, I love the fact that we're back in this circle.
Take your ship, then. I don't care where you go, just leave this place. Leave Telos.
We shall remove him, mistress.
Okay. To catch, I guess, up with the talking here, Atris was on the Jedi Council back when I was abandoned. Yeah. She was on the Jedi Council back when I was essentially abandoned and disavowed, and my connection severed, and she's incredibly pretentious. She assumes she knows things that she couldn't know, and I was trying to tell her that I went to war to protect people, and she's like, no, war is bad. And while for the most part I would agree, I also, again, am a firm believer in chaos theory, which dictates that you have a baseline because of being able to experience great and its polar opposite, not because of being able to experience nothing. You are blind. Well, my dear, you are female, therefore you are That's not, no. That's blatantly misogynistic. I'm not misogynistic, nor am I misandric.
I will tell the others you are not to be disturbed.
I don't... That's just not a classification. Good lord.
Attend to matters.
She is inferior, though. It's not the female portion, but it certainly is her as a person. She falls well short of being a halfway decent person. The idea of it was that you go to war. The Mandalorians were coming in. This is going to sound like a history lesson. Mandalorians were coming in, and they were destroying worlds and pillaging because Mandalorians look for true strength. They're the survival of the fittest kind of creed. And so what they do is they conquest, and they conquest just for fun. And they are the probably second most bloodthirsty group of people in the Star Wars universe. Iridonians, I believe, are the most bloodthirsty. And to the point, Mandalorians are bloodthirsty insofar as that they'll kill and do whatever they have to kill their enemy, take their enemy out. Iridonians are so bloodthirsty that they will take out their enemy, and then they'll start turning on each other to figure out who the strongest of those that remain would be, which is pretty brutal. So what had happened was that the Mandalorians started to attack these worlds so that they would create a show of power. The Jedi decided that they would wait and allow the worlds to defend themselves with militia and military. The worlds were falling to the Mandalorians. Revan decides to pick up his arms with his friend who becomes his apprentice, which was Malak, who we faced in the first one, and lead an army of people known as the Revankeist, or Revankist, to against the Mandalorians to war. And he pushed them all back, and he won the war, and we got exiled for it because the council decided not to do that. On John's gravestone, it says, I am here. Quote, he once said at an episode of Only Fools and Horses. Oh, that's very nice. I'm not the sexiest. I'm not sexist. I've slept with at least one. Well, you know what? I'm not even going to make the comment. There is technically a very fallacious argument that's being made right now that is kind of a segue from the point you've just made, but I don't want to make it because it's firstly a ridiculous argument, and secondly would spark infinitely more controversy than it was meant to, so I'm not going to do that. I can't believe I still use an iPod, which is a relic at this point. I was never a fan of iPods. Back when the MP3 scene came out, I got a Zune. And the dominant reason for me getting a Zune was because the memory, you could get a cheaper one with more memory. So you could get an iPod that would have, you know, for the first generations, you could get up to 128 gigs, which was pretty impressive. But then it got to be where it was like it was like an 8 or a 16 or a 32 gig, and maybe up to a 64. And I could get a 128 gig iPod for the same price. I stopped using MP3 players when I got a cell phone. So I worked in cell phones, information technology specifically as it pertained to cell phones. Hi T3, I'm not going to get you yet. I worked in that when smartphones were just barely starting. So the early mid 2000s. I was working in cell phones. Nope, not getting you guys either yet. Oh shoot. She woke up.
There was something from your past here.
Now my phone, the point being is I now have a phone. My phone now has a 0.5 terabyte of memory, which is more than enough to cover any music and whatever else I might want to watch. Generally, I have that. I think I have like my digital copies of my Star Wars movies and stuff on there. Because I have the physical versions, and then they came with digital code for download. Or not a download, it was a stream service, I think it was, but I think I ended up downloading them somehow anyway. As long as it works, you enjoy it, use it. Absolutely. I know everyone has moved on to other devices, but for me it's so useful to keep all of my music, audiobooks, and audio dramas. So, that's, again, I use a Galaxy Note 10 Plus. I have the Kylo Ren limited edition one that came out in 2019, so it's a couple of years old. But it's one of the last ones that supported a memory card. And around here you can buy, for about 40-50 bucks, you can buy about a 0.5 terabytes worth of memory card. You can buy a 512. Plus the phone itself came with 128, 256 memory gigs of memory. So I actually have 3/4 of a terabyte of memory on my phone. And that's more than enough to carry. Right now I've got 378 audiobooks from Audible. I have 5,786 songs. And I have, I think, 28 movies. The Star Wars films, and then a couple of others that I have digital copy of. And I still am not even close to filling that thing up. And I have a couple of YouTube videos downloaded via the YouTube download interface on YouTube Premium. Just like my wife, the old trout is still breathing, so she's still worthwhile for really. Wow. I mean, I know I know that that's a joke, but my good lord, that sounds like something that would have been said on All in the Family by Carol O'Connor. Good lord. I used to have an iPod Touch, but now I have an iPod Classic 7th generation. It's 160 gigs. I still use iTunes as well. And again, there's nothing wrong with it if you want to use that. I mean, pen and paper is my preference for recording data, but it could be considered by many people to be antiquated, as most people would use their phone to text a note. But I think that I agree. I think that if you're going to use something and you're going to enjoy that, then you might as well. We have one question we will ask to all who enter this chat. What did you think of episodes 7 through 9? My views on the sequel trilogy were very mixed at best. Some things I liked, some things I didn't. Well, okay. Again, having a difference of opinion is the very lifeblood of progress, right? It allows me to learn things I didn't yet know, and and disagreement my point being is don't be afraid to be disagreed with or to disagree with us, because those different perspectives help us form perhaps different viewpoints ourselves. My question, being perhaps a smidge more granular, is what did you enjoy, and what were pieces of it that you would discard if you could? Let's see.
Be warned, unresolved events from our past can create wounds, and more importantly, they can distract. There is a Jedi here, perhaps. Yet there are no students, and this
Let's see.
Plans are fragile things, and life often dashes expectations to the ground. Perhaps students will come to her in time. For now, she is surrounded by those who... Yes, her servants are not Jedi. Their minds are walls.
Let's see.
This discipline blinds them to the Force as well. Invade the mind of another. It is not something that... Very well. Let us...
There's a lot of stuff that Kreia says here that I think is...
He's only sleeping.
Let's see.
It seems the jet...
Sorry, General, I must...
There's a lot of stuff that she...
I'm fine, General. What is this?
That Kreia says, a lot of the lessons she gives that I actually have a really... It's very, if you're familiar with the studies of Friedrich Nietzsche, it's very reminiscent of his kind of pseudo-nihilistic viewpoints, which I find to be really, really refreshing. My biggest problem was there was a lack of vision on where to take the trilogy. I agree. I think from one film to the other, there was not a lot of cohesion to keep it together. I won't say I necessarily hate the sequels. They're just simply not perfect, that's all. So I'll give my opinion if it's all right. I'm not a fan of them either, but you say you liked some and you didn't like some. I think an oversimplification would be to say that I'm not a fan of them. But I do also think it would be fair to say there were things I liked. My key issue with them, again, is very much like the lack of vision, but I would also say one of my key issues beyond the lack of vision is Rey. I don't like Rey. I love Daisy Ridley. She seems incredibly nice, and she was talented. And she brought what she was meant to have brought to the script. She brought, what she was supposed to the script. She did what she was supposed to in acting. My problem is that her character was poorly written. And so because her character was written without any sort of flaw, there was no arc, there was no progress. She wasn't overcoming the odds. She was bound to win. Kylo was probably my favorite character. I would agree. I'm not going to agree that Kylo is your favorite character. You just said it, so obviously that's the truth. But I would agree that Kylo is. I would say that he was the most diverse character. Rey the character just wasn't well written. The actor, yeah, exactly.
I am, General. Very well, General.
I'm gonna take Kreia and Atton. Okay. Yeah, that'll do. Okay. Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, Rey the character was so unidimensional. That was the biggest problem. Oh, this is where we start getting some cool stuff. I believe that's the Ravager, which is a skeletal, dead Star Destroyer, basically. And the bad guy that's aboard that thing is awesome. We haven't met him yet, though, so I'm not going to spoil anything. And Visus Mar. I think we're going to meet him here in just a second. So if we do, I'm going to introduce him and explain what he is.
I have felt it too, my lord.
Yep, there he is.
It was difficult to make out, my lord. At first it was such a quiet thing. I did not notice it. But now I wonder if it has always been there. I merely could not hear it before. The sound built so slowly, yet when you listen for it, you can make out the strains, even over the background life of the universe.
So this is the main bad guy. This is Darth Nihilus.
Do you feel it as if... You are the darkness in which all life dies, my lord. All life exists to...
So that's Visus Mar. Visus Mar is a Miraluka. Miraluka are born blind. They're technically not born blind. They're born without eyes, which would make them blind by default. but they are almost always force sensitive as a result of not being born with one of their core senses, or one of the core senses.
Yes.
Darth Nihilus is actually a human male who has basically become so engulfed by the Force that he is able to consume entire... He's basically the, if you're a Marvel Cinematic Universe, or not even Marvel Cinematic, if you're a Marvel Universe fan, he's kind of the Galactus. He can drain all of the Force energy, which is by virtue all of the life energy from entire planets. So he's a planet cracker. Pretty darn powerful. I wasn't too keen on the fact that Rey was Palpatine's granddaughter. It just seemed lazy. My opinion on that is that I know Terry wasn't very keen on the sequels either. Yeah, it's my opinion on that one is, or my belief on it, I don't know if it's really an opinion, is that they did that because one of the biggest critiques was that she was inexplicably powerful, specifically in Episode 8, towards the end, where they're in the salt mines, and she's lifting rocks that are many times her size, and she's lifting multiple, tons of them. And I had a buddy I was debating, because he loved Rey to the point of where he would follow these arguments that were absolutely ridiculous, and I'm sitting there going, how did he do... How did he lift those rocks and let her out? And he was like, well, maybe they were hollow. And I'm like, well, we saw one of the little salt foxes squeeze through it, so we know they weren't hollow because he would have been able to move them. Secondly, don't you think that was the first thing that they would have tried to escape with, is by moving these hollow rocks? And so there was just these ridiculous arguments, and so giving her that bloodline was the only way that they could justify her no progress, incredible power. I had zero fear of Rey being any kind of actual danger throughout those... Yeah, exactly. You want... I mean, that's the thing, if you've watched Andor, that's one of the things that makes Andor so compelling, is Andor fails a lot. He always figures a way out. He's cunning, but he fails. He fails a lot. He's stuck in prison. He's, there's all kinds of things that happen. I was involved in this. If I was involved in the sequel trilogy, it would have been a different story. Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, if I were going to... So here's my thing. If I were going to go into the Skywalker saga and I wanted to make a 7, 8, and 9, if I felt that was necessary, then I think I would probably follow the books. I think that's what I would go with. I would follow the books a little bit more closely. I would be looking for the epics with the Killiks, right, which are in the Joiner King and that trilogy, which was Troy Denning, I believe, and Aaron Alliston, and I would have gone into the well, that's not Invincible, I can't remember the Betrayal one arc, which is with... Okay, that is one of the things I want. Can I wear it? Should be in the Z's. Yep, Zazen Shah. Thank you. Cool. It's a Jedi robe that's got better defense than a Jedi robe, basically. Zazen Shah. Different cult of Force users. Yeah, I would have gone... I would have had Darth Caedus again. For anybody who has read the book, I'm not going to say exactly, but I would have had Jason and Jaina and Darth Caedus. Luke would have found Mara Jade again, would have met and trained Kip Duron, Koron Horn, Kyle Katarn, Jaden Kor. Like, these are things that would have branched off into their own stories. I would have loved to have done a 7, 8, and 9 that followed Luke Skywalker running his temple on Yavin. He built a temple, in the original canon, he built a temple on Yavin, and he worked together with the Galactic, and there was a group basically called the Remnant, which were Imperial loyalists that basically post-imperially would enforce the Empire's rule, and the Remnant would fight against these mercenaries and such, and it was just one of those types of, the adventure was good. And you would have Force users that came to full power. There was a lot of good stories there. I also hate that there weren't any kind of special, there wasn't any kind of final scene between Luke, Han, and Leia. Yeah, I agree with that. That would have been really cool to have seen. Instead of bringing back Palpatine and the Empire, I would make the Yuuzhan Vong the main villains. I know not every fan's cup of tea, but they love them because they were something different. Well, I made mention of that, too. I think I made mention that you could do that and Luke could be a feature in it. He didn't even have to be the main. Like, you could go back to the way that they did Shadows of the Empire with, oh shoot, I can't think of his name right now. Dash Rendar, there we go. You could have, you could go into Dash Rendar. I gotta make sure I got everything before I go. I gotta go get T3 too. I know he's in here. But you gotta go get, there he is.
Well, if it...
Don't be a...
Hold on, I'm gonna skip through this real quick. Yeah, no, I think it would have been nice to see Prince Xizor, though. I think it would have been good to see Dash Rendar against Prince Xizor, and you know, you have some Han Solo Dash Rendar moments, and who's the coolest guy. You know, there's a cool off on that, right? But ultimately, I do think it was just very poorly done. Let's see. Would you be open to sometime down the line in a few years the new saga begins in Star Wars with completely different characters, whether it's thousands of years before or after the Skywalker? I personally would like it to be before, because they have written thousands of years before the Skywalkers where KOTOR is, and the KOTOR events are all we really know about. We have a general idea of things like the Jedi Civil War and the Great Wars, the Mandalorian Wars, but it's a fairly general sense, and there's a lot of plug and play that can be done. We also have a lot of writings of what happens hundreds, if not thousands of years post Episode 6 with Cade Skywalker, which is Luke's great-great-grandson, or great-great-great-great-great-great-grandson, you know? So there is writing in both directions, but I think it's vague enough, especially as opposed to the games and the movies, that you could absolutely make a cohesive story out of it. Yeah, I would love that. I feel like that they always rely on Skywalker in some way. I feel like every big movie or something involves some kind of Skywalker tease or cameo or hint. Yeah, and I think that there's a level of special to it. I mean, but I also think that you could equally make it you could equally make a great movie. Hold on, I gotta make sure I have my... I gotta go back and get my weapons. Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with that. I don't mind it if it's done tastefully. The Mandalorian did well with that, and the Book of Boba Fett had 2 episodes in there that did decently well with it as well. One specifically that did really well, so I was a fan. There have been many other villains and bad guys throughout Star Wars, and the Sith are not the only ones. Absolutely. A couple of them that were, I think, really good. Obviously, the Yuzan Vong would fall out. You had the Black Sun, which were great. You had the Exchange, which were fantastic. You could also pick several Sith, right? And we've gone all the way back to Darth Revan, all the way up to Darth Krayt. That's about a 6,000-year time span or so. I know 7 and 9 were continuing stories, so of course they were there, right? Which, yeah, it's Skywalker Saga, right? I get that. So what's the further timeline after the Skywalkers? Has there been any books or anything after Episode 9? Oh yeah. Cade Skywalker is the great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandson. It's a comic book format for most of it. Yeah, there's, I mean, it goes, Darth Krayt and Darth Talon are the bad guys then, and it's way thousands of years. This live stream's been going for 2 hours. Yeah, I usually do about a 2 or 3 hour stream, so just for the fun of it. It's just a way to decompress and have fun and talk with people, so hope you've been enjoying it. I appreciate you for being here and conversing with us. It's been a lot of fun. What's that guy who everyone loves with the different colored skin? I know he's a popular what? I'll be right back. Just gotta check on something. No worries. Different colors from what's that? There's a lot of those. So I'm not entirely sure. There's a lot of guys that are, because they're the thing about, like, Darth Krayt is he's a human Tusken Raider that gets he's not a Sith. Okay, what does he do? Can you give me a little bit more context? I bet you I can come up with the answer for you. Just I'm not quite sure.
She said
that
is not all she says. She says you know nothing of loyalty to any cause except your own. Atris says that you fell to the dark side in the Mandalorian Wars when you... Atris says when the Dark Lord
He has blue or gray skin. What story is he from, or do you have kind of a general idea?
You had fallen so far, you could no longer feel the Force.
He seems more like a general type. What have you seen him in? What's the... Is there an episode or a comic book or a book that you've seen him in?
So it was a matter of choice then. If Atris has erred in her evaluation of your motivation... I believe that is the extent of her expressed... Yes, it is difficult sometimes for others to truly speak their heart, or listen... Without having seen you and Atris fight. Battle is a pure form of expression.
Let's see.
Perhaps in battle, the words are swept away, giving... You may ask. She said, you betrayed the Jedi by going to war when it was forbidden to you. You turned on your masters, your teachings, and yourself.
Okay, Grand Admiral Thrawn. Okay, yes, I love Grand Admiral Thrawn.
She says you know nothing of loyalty to any cause.
He is,
Before you go, exact.
Let's see.
Please.
It is like a cloud, a mist that drifts from living creature to creature, set in motion by currents and eddies. It is the eye of the storm, the passions of all. It is the rising swell at the end of life, the promise of new territories and new blood.
I see. Thank you both. I appreciate you sharing.
Okay. That's what I wanted to do. Her actual name is Brianna. Spelled differently, pronounced differently, but only slightly from my little sister, Brianna. Okay. I want a villain like him from the movies for once. Vader's sick, Maul's cool, Kylo had potential. I just want to see what the focus move away from the lightsabers, I guess. I know there's... So yeah, no, so Grand Admiral Thrawn is my absolute favorite non-Force wielding character. There are 3 books where he was prominently featured in original canon. There are 3 books where he is where his origin story up to his performance as a Grand Admiral are featured, and then there are 3 books and those are in current canon. And there are 3 books post those events, which are pre those events, which are a telling of him in operation for his own people's military, which are known as the Ascendancy. And so 6 books, all 6 books in current canon, 3 books in previous canon, 9 books total that predominantly feature on him.
Did she?
He's never been in a live-action movie, just some animated film. Yeah, so far he's been in animated films, he's been in the books, he's been in some comics, but he's my favorite, and I'll explain a couple of just feats. So the first thing is that in the Star Wars galaxy, there are a group of people, specifically when the Empire takes over, though it does happen in KOTOR, right? Gorton Kolu from Terrace is a speciesist. He's not keen... He's not keen on aliens. He doesn't like aliens. Humans and aliens may not intermingle very well. There are also stories and instances where, of course, there are people that are the opposite, right? For example, Rebels, one of the clones decides to desert war and decides to walk the path of peace. He marries a Twi'lek, and they have 2 children. The children are half human, half Twi'lek. So it's something that works out well, but there are also a lot of people that are speciesist. So Thrawn is a Chiss, which is a very specific and rare alien species. And in being a rare alien species, especially one that comes from a part of the outer realms, he's considered to be, without anybody knowing him, he's considered to be backwater, potentially uneducated or inferior, and he's not given really a chance. He picks a human that happens to be from the outer regions as well, though, named Eli Vanto, and they climb the ranks, essentially, all the way up to the very tip top, which is really impressive. Do I have an overlay? I sure do have heat shielding. I don't have an underlay, so that's okay. But I do have a really nice overlay, which is nice. So let's do that, and I'm gonna wait. It didn't have there wasn't a weapons locker, so I guess I'm just gonna deal with it. Anyway, they climb the ranks all the way up to where he finally gets to Grand Admiral. Grand Admiral, by the way, being the top rank in the Imperial Navy. Like, there aren't very many of them that are... You can be an admiral, and you're still outranked, which is pretty high. I just had to make a quick appointment with Dr. Bog. Fair enough. Again, that one I think is a reference which I am not familiar with, so I apologize. So yeah, Thrawn climbs his rank to Grand Admiral with Eli Vanto. Eli Vanto is not a Grand Admiral, but he climbs up to the rank of Captain, I believe he makes. The Bog is what we call the toilet. Oh, fair enough.
Mistress, the last of the handmaidens is not among us.
She has left.
That is one of the interesting differences. I think a lot of people in, and I'm going to say general England, I'm not going to say British just because I don't know if it extends to all of the British territories, but have words where they generally will go to and say toilet, which is specifically an appliance, whereas we will...
Some evils must be
Fair enough. I would say whereas we will we'll traditionally refer to the room, not the appliance, and so in that particular instance I would say, could I borrow the lavatory? It's
Well, now that we're off that...
Oh, no worries. I mean, it's not my business either which way. I was just curious. But that would be how I would typically word it. Just break to the lavatory. You had a 50-50 shot and you blew it. Hold on.
What does the machine say? We seem to have found it.
Nice. Hold on, I'm gonna give it a second. This is the trial. So I want the trial to play out. This is me showing up on the Academy, getting exiled from the Jedi Council. There's grumpy old Vandar.
Do you know why we have called you here?
Not Vandar, Vrook, I'm sorry.
As Revan summoned you, so have you come full circle to return to the Jedi.
Why did you defy us? The Jedi are gone.
That Jedi right there is known as Zez Kyle. The voice actor is the same voice actor that played DJ Professor K in the JSRF game that came out in 2001, 2002.
Or is it the horror?
Very, very cool voice.
You to see the truth at last.
If I had to pick my favorite Star Wars character when I was a lad, it would be Jango Fett. Oh, there's nothing wrong with that. I was always a Han Solo fan when I was younger. I was a big Han Solo guy. Jango was awesome. Jango, the biggest thing about Jango is he was the gunslinger, right? He had those pistols he used, which are Westar 34 blasters. And the fact that he was able... I did a tier list a couple of weeks back where I gave a Jedi Sith, power tier. And he kills a Jedi in episode 2. He shoots him right off the balcony. And it takes him 3 shots. 1 which I believe is blocked, and 2 which hit him squarely in the chest. And that is Coleman Trebor, who I gave... This is the only F I gave. Why are you being exiled? Who'd you sleep? I didn't sleep with anybody. I went to war, and the Jedi Council wanted to sit back and wait and saw how it played out before they went to war, and I did it anyway. That's why I'm being exiled. Django is amazing. It is a good film. Tarantino films are great just on the whole, I think. I played... even had a backpack and a tenor... Nice! That's really cool. That's really, really cool. They used to do a thing back in the... Again, this is a long time ago, but this would have been... when did episode 2 come out? 2002, I think. They had Choose Your Own Adventure books, and I did collect some of those. I found some of them randomly, and I collected them up. I had already had a fairly extensive collection at that point in time of Star Wars novels, but the Choose Your Own Adventures, and I remember the title of one of them stuck with me the most because I think it was brilliant. Star Wars, The Cavern of Screaming Skulls. How great is that title? I think basically what they amounted is that the Screaming Skulls were skulls embedded in the wall that the wind would whistle through, but still. Okay, question? Okay, go for it. Okay, so the best answer is this one.
You refuse to hear us. You have shut us out. And so have shut yourself.
Is Boba Fett actually a good character, or is he just a cool helmet?
And you are a Jedi no longer.
There is one
He used to be the latter. He is now the former. He could be better. I'll be clear on that. He could be better. Boba was just a cool helmet. And Boba was probably one of the most incompetent characters because Han kills him.
You are correct, Kavar. When he was here, I felt it. It was as if he was not there. More like...
The war has touched the youngest of the Order. Many of them have lost themselves in battle against...
We have not lost a Jedi this day. You felt it. He has lost himself.
I fear it is our teachings that...
We are not the ones who taught...
We take responsibility, Aiden.
A choice of
Okay, I'm just gonna... I'm reading it and I'm kind of skipping, so it's not...
Stem from the same source.
You are wrong. The dark side is not what I sensed in the exile.
Whatever that wound was, it was of the dark.
What would you
She's the only one that just stuck up for me.
Mindful of your feelings. This is not revenue stood before you.
No, although that may come.
Malachor 5 should have been his grave.
No, not death. Many battles.
We should have told him the truth.
No good would have come from it, even if what you believed was true.
Perhaps in many
Vrook, obviously played by the awesome and sadly now late Ed Asner.
But he may never discover the truth.
And that is the future we must accept.
Okay, sorry. I think my first Star Wars book was Phantom Menace sticker book, where you collect the stickers of the scene from the film and place them in the right place. Oh, I had tons of Star Wars books prior to 99. I was, I had Splinter of the Mind's Eye by Alan Foster Dean. I had the original novelizations of the original books as they were written. There were a lot of cool stuff. I just remember everyone saying how amazing Boba Fett was, and he never really did anything. Of course, she sticks up for you. She walks in on you. No, that's not how that worked. Boba Fett used to not be a really cool character. He was a helmet, and he was cool in, she's no good to me, dead. As Eskael, Kavar, Vash, and Atris.
Oh, strange.
It is no coincidence, and we are walking.
Ah, the handmaiden stowed away. We knew that, though.
Those are Atris's records you have stolen.
What the hell are you doing on our ship?
I have come to join you.
I couldn't read books as a kid because I'm autistic. Didn't start reading properly until I was in my teens.
It is just me.
I'm remarkably introverted. It's not that I can't speak with people, and it's not that I'm awkward in that. It's just that I have heavy preference to be to myself. And reading books is a phenomenal to-yourself activity.
Indeed, but I have had enough of them.
Yeah, me too. I'll be in my chamber. If she's coming with us,
General.
Okay, let me...
The cargo hold is enough. It is no matter, but thank you for...
Okay. Boba Fett's shower scene in Episode 9's lead scene's weird. There's not really a shower scene in Episode 9. There is kind of a pseudo shower scene in him doing the back to tank.
Belonged to someone who served Revan in the wars, not the
Papa Frick.
Could build another one.
I'll always remember the day Ed Asner as Hudson from Disney's Gargoyles. Yeah. I'm sorry, I always remember Ed Asner as Hudson from Disney. Yeah, he was in a ton of great things. He's just had a great iconic voice as always the grumpy guy,
I don't know, General. I know this. A light. I think I can help.
Okay.
We need a power cell.
An emitter matrix, a lens, and a focusing crystal.
Lens and focusing crystal.
Okay, I know where we can find the crystal, but I don't know where we can find... I don't remember where we can find the other parts. Well, look, I have the emitter.
Is that you've gone for a long time without a memory wipe. Most droids behave erratically under those circumstances.
Oh.
I know that. What was that? That's what I'm... I am not pushing you around. Thanks for the vote of good. Now,
okay.
You wouldn't guess it from the outside, but it looks like... Not bad. I'm all done with you.
Nice. Okay, sorry. I took a moment there just to I think we're in space, right? Yeah. Okay. We Brits did get Cartoon Network, which is still running to this day. Toonami and Fox Kids. I stopped watching TV 13 years ago. Just soaps and reality shows these days. I play games a lot. I do a lot of card shuffling and content creation. I read and I write quite a bit. And I love to play music. I play piano, guitar. Those are my favorite ones. And then, of course, I don't mind speaking into a microphone on occasion for people who might want to use my voice for something here and there. Which I've done a couple of voiceover gigs. Nothing major. I don't have a particularly gifted voice, but I've got a pretty healthy spread of hobbies. So, and then I obviously I play video games, right? So, and there's my HK unit. He needs, let me see, 4 critical components: a processor, a chassis, a control cluster, and a vocabulator. I have the vocabulator and the control cluster, and I believe that's all I can get to this point. I believe Nar Shaddaa has one of the others. Nar Shaddaa is the first place we are going. So, yeah, I don't usually do a lot of that. To Ash's question, though, because I am doing a dreadful job staying on topic, Boba Fett was more fleshed out in the book of Boba Fett, where he, I think, became a cooler character, although I'm not the biggest fan of his alignment within the new canon. I kind of liked the idea of him just being the for hire guy, and there's a lot of fleshing out that creates a complete arc for him, which starts in the Clone Wars, and he becomes very mercenary, and then he grows and he gets to be the Tamara Morrison version in Book of Boba Fett, where he becomes more noble. But I kind of do like the idea of him maintaining I guess a kind of mercenary take.
It won't be easy. We're gonna touch down in the refugee sector. There's a lot more traffic there, and it's harder for people to spot you.
Anyone flying the Star Lanes has docked on Nar Shaddaa, at least.
I try, as far as streaming services, I'm not the greatest fan of streaming services and online services, just because of there have been
plotted a course for once we're down.
There's been a recent, and it could be worldwide. I know it's happening over here. Obviously, there are some price hikes to services which are universal, and then there were also instances where people were making digital purchases that were no longer in favor of the terms of service of the platform, and so you have this digital purchase, and whoever it is says, well, it no longer is in accordance with our terms of service, and so we're now going to revoke that one as a part of our service. And you've purchased it. This is a purchase. This is not a rental. This is not a streaming service. And because they do that, some people are losing their purchased stuff. Terry has done the odd acting, his life, nothing major. All that can be found on his IMDb page. Oh yeah, that's fair play. I've never done any, I don't think I've ever done any live acting, anything like that. It's only ever been voice. I'll do a voice. I've done for the non-paid gigs, just fun things. I've done the wrestling ring announcer for Omega Ace, and for paid gigs I've done a lot of the infomercial, for more information call this number, that type of stuff. And then for fun I'll do the occasional, Voices 1 2 3 ad where I'll play an older man, or I'll play a parody character or something like that. So it's that kind of thing. I'm not a big, that's what I get paid to do for a living kind of thing. I've got to head out, man. Good chat as always. Speak later. Yeah, we'll see you later, Ash. It's always good getting to talk with you. Yeah, I'm just about done. We'll land here, get established and situated, and then I will probably call the stream somewhere around the neighborhood of just over the 2.5 hour mark. So.
Ah, the beautiful stench. This moon. Welcome to Nar. Word of warning: watch where you step, or you'll fall for hours.
So most people hit terminal velocity around 250 miles per hour. That's a really ridiculous long fall, because That means if you hit terminal velocity, and terminal velocity was 250, give or take, 250, I think it's like 233 is terminal velocity, but for the sake of argument and sake of easy math, we'll do 250. If you'll fall for hours, which implies 2 or more hours, at a rate of terminal velocity being 250 miles per hour, that means that you would fall for a total of 500 miles minimum before you stopped falling. 2 hours, 500 miles. That's insanity. I used to make CGI films back when I was in secondary school using a program on the PC called The Movies, Stunts, and Effects. I don't think I'm familiar with that one.
No, but I forgot to tell them we were landed. The refugee sector's a dead zone. Sure, most of the landing pads around here are unclaimed. Or should be. Well, I mean, not this one. But they all have the... Maybe a little, but landing here means we didn't have to transmit our ID signature. You know what trouble that... In fact, while we're here, we should get those signatures changed. Wouldn't make us such a target when we enter a new city. Alright then, let's...
It does not matter where we go, if what we seek is...
yeah, if you want to stay on the ship and meditate some more.
Finding a Jedi, but this moon does not get any small.
Well, if we're gonna... then just being here should...
Okay.
Alright, if you have any questions...
You there!
Uh-oh.
It's a Toydarian.
Letting that piece of junk sink its struts into my landing pad. It'll be fine where it... And by right, I mean...
Oh yeah, I forgot mind tricks don't work on Toydarians.
It'll be fine where it is. What, you think I'm stupid? I got another ship coming. Yeah? Well, this is the first I've heard of it. You call the shots.
Okay, that's fine. He's scared of huts. I posted some of them on a site called Vio under the username Spilo or Spilo93. I'll have to go take a look at that. I'm not familiar with that site, I don't think, but I'd be happy to take a peek at it. I'm going to take Handmaiden with me. I haven't really done that. I usually take Atten, but let's take Handmaiden and Kreia. Yes, I do want that party. I had Dark Side configuration. Son of a gun. The Hogwarts Legacy controls come back and plague me again. I'm still majority light, so that's pretty good. Voiced by Andy Secombe, who also did Watto. Met him once. Very nice. It's one of the it's definitely fun to see the kind of nods to the characters in this case. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead. Oh yeah, she's a 9. I'm a 10. We're gonna have to use her level up, or otherwise she's not gonna stand a chance. We should give her. She is Ichani. So really quickly, 1 second. I want to give her. Do I have Ichani? Yes, I have. Let's give her Ichani armor because she is Ichani. Okay. She looks very much like kind of an Aeon Flux style character. She looks like the kind of a version of the woman from Titan AE. I hate it when live streams have to end. It's always nice when it's always nice. I'm such a chatterbox. That's okay. I mean, that's the whole nature of it. The entire reason. So again, I don't think I gave the exact. I gave it kind of general, but I will go ahead and give this. I'll give her a +1 to strength. Let me really quickly. She's got a staff that she has. I will give her a vibro sword to switch. I will give her a ranged and a melee shield. I will give her a reflex package because she's fast. She can have dexterity, and I don't have any gloves. The reason I started the channel, I love Titan AE. I grew up watching a few of Don Bluth's films. Yeah, Titan AE was one of those that I thought was actually pretty cool for what it was. I was very happy to I thought it was pretty decently well done. I'm going to change that to a vibro blade so I can have the 2 vibro swords since I'm the proficient 2 weapons fighter. So vibro sword. Okay. I thought it was really well done. Don Bluth was just a brilliant animator. He wasn't always... There were a lot of things he did that I wasn't keen on in some of his animations, but ultimately he was very talented. And his school of animation remains one of the most prestigious.
No, look, you can't keep us trapped in the refugee sector. We can't survive that.
So we've got a Trandoshan and then a Weequay. Good lord. This isn't going to go well for them. But no, I was going to say, I gave the kind of broad mission statement for the channel, but I guess I should kind of explain the specifics. I started the channel I uploaded the first video in 2017. I started making videos and conceptualizing the channel in 2016. I'm going to...
Whatever your reasons.
Do that. I just subbed. Oh, well, thank you. It's very kind of you. I appreciate it. I always like it when someone has enough fun that they're willing to get notified or subscribe to our stuff. And usually it's me and my wife. Right now I'm doing solo streams, and she's streaming on her channel, but we stream together. We just have a lot of fun. I created the channel in 2016.
Forgive me, stranger, but...
Okay, I tried to do the middle thing because that's what Kreia likes. Here's the thing. Both of these really quickly, both of these choices are wrong. The take 5 credits is I get considered an enabler and he becomes a victim because he's 5 credits richer. The I kill you is he takes the cruelty that I've imparted to him and imparts it to someone else. There is no right answer, but I'm gonna be nice. I'm gonna get reprimanded for it. But I am going to. He's gonna get mugged.
Such a thing. Such kindnesses will mean nothing. His path is set. Giving him what he has not earned is like pouring sand into his hands. And would that be a kindness? What if by surviving another day he brings a greater darkness upon another? The Force binds all things. Even an act of kindness may have more severe repercussions. By giving him something he has not earned, perhaps all you have helped him become is a target.
So he gets mugged by another person needing help.
Seeing another elevated often brings the eyes of...
And then the credits get taken off of him.
And perhaps in the end, all you have wrought is more pain.
Yeah, and the nature of this is basically you can do no right, so...
Be careful of charity. Good.
Okay. Anyway, what I was saying is, I created the channel. I created this channel in 2016. Trying to get all this. I'm so sorry. I'm so trying to get this tidied up. I created it in 2016, and the reason being is at that time I was working in a very tight-knit place, a place where people were talking constantly about everything, and they were open about it, very open about talking about business, politics, religion. And up until 2016, that had never been a problem. I'd been working at that job for a while, and I'd never had an issue. But 2016 comes, and we have what is arguably one of the most divisive political issues we have, which was an election, right? And I never felt comfortable talking politics and religion at a workplace. I don't think it's appropriate, but it doesn't bother me if people do it. I just don't choose to do it myself. These people that had worked together, that were so friendly to each other, that were so polite to each other, would just tear in to each other if there was a difference of opinion on the election, which there most certainly was.
Hey, I saw that. It's the Ebon Hawk, isn't it? The registry's 34 P7JK. It's got a temperamental... She's also got 2 secret compartments, one in the cargo hold, right near the plasteel cylinders in the back, and the second beneath the bunks and the... No deal. A ship's worth its weight in... Good to hear you aren't going to challenge it.
Are you sure you wish to do this?
No hard feelings, I hope. Don't worry. I'll be going now. Get used to the...
I told him that he could have it, but he won't actually take it. So, but anyway, they were becoming more divisive. Point being, they were becoming more divisive. They were becoming people that were friends were taking this ridiculous issue and were just making mountains out of it, making mountains out of a molehill. And usually, if you weren't talking about that, they'd be fine. They'd be friends, and everything would be fine. You start talking about that, and they would start calling each other just all kinds of pejorative. I don't need to be. Well, maybe. All kinds of pejoratives, all kinds of awful stuff. Thank you. I stay away from politics and the media. I can't say I'm a fan of today's world either. Yeah, it's here's the thing. I understand that politics are important, and it's important to have opinions, and it's important to be able to enact beliefs if you want. But it's also important, I think equally, perhaps even more important, to be able to listen to other people's perspectives and develop opinions that are uniquely yours, even if they're in opposition to opinions established. And it's very important not to tell other people that their opinions are objectively wrong if you can't quantify, if you can't cite and prove that. So generally, I won't tell anybody that their opinion is absolutely wrong unless I can prove that it's absolutely wrong. You know, otherwise I'll just say I disagree. These people were calling each other horrible things, and they were normally friends, but they were calling each other horrible things, and were demeaning, and they were rude, and it was awful. And granted, I've got thick skin. You're not going to call me anything that's going to hurt my feelings. But... ah, shoot. Okay. But I don't... Let's see. Okay, thank you kindly. I now know Atten is a killer. Something I already think I know. I don't want to... I'm going to end up over here in Sirocco territory, aren't I? Yep. Dang it. I'm going to be careful. I'm not going to go fight them yet, because they're just not... they're just hostile. But anyway, the politicking was just causing people that were normally friends to do awful things. And I thought... I could talk about media, I could talk about movie, I could talk about video games, and all of a sudden the mood would completely just... the tension would go. It was a deflation of these, you know, random egos, and it was just to kind of return to a common ground. And so I decided, well, you know what, I'm going to make a channel where I play games, mostly retro, some new games, obviously, and I'm going to create a room. The channel's named Retro Room. It's about a room, it's not about me. And the thing about it is people gatekeep, but rooms are always open. Rooms are built open. People close doors, people lock doors, people build doors, people build rooms. But rooms are themselves never built closed, never built locked. So I thought the idea of having people that would... a room where people could come and talk about something frivolous would be nice. It doesn't mean that there aren't some politics, obviously... again, people are really upset about Hogwarts Legacy, and I understand why they are, and I disagree with the fundamental reason, but I'm not upset at them for having that opinion. It's just not an opinion I share. But I think the idea is to come and talk and open free ideas and listen to other people's opinion and gain perspective based on them. And it's why I made the channel. I've been doing the channel again since 2016, uploading since 2017, and everything's gone pretty smoothly for the most part. It's been pretty nice. You said in the media, that's another thing too, is when I read an opinion, I read it almost like a hypothesis, almost as if I were reading a thesis, right? Or a study, a case study. In a lot of cases, a case study will be given, which is basically, the way it's traditionally formatted is you'll have a problem.
This is Sirocco territory. Get out of here before we space you.
Let's see.
Are. Now beat it.
Alright, fine. I'll deal with him later. There we go. With the media, I read it like I said, like I would a case study. And a case study is traditionally formatted in a fairly straightforward way. It's the problem being addressed, the hypothesis and what the expected or intended result is, the nature of the study, the result of the study, and then the conclusion, right? Whether or not the hypothesis panned out. Same thing with media. Somebody has an opinion. They have a prescribed solution. This is what has happened if we look at the media. Conclusion, this makes sense or doesn't. Terry doesn't bother with all that garbage either, and I don't blame him for that. He's in his mid-50s now, and he's got better things to do than to get on with than to listen to the same old rubbish. Well, the thing about it is, these days, especially when it comes to divisiveness, people don't realize that drawing lines is the nature of divisiveness, right? It's why we use the line or a dash as the primary symbol for division. When you divide a number by a number, you put a number and then a dash and then another number, not a hyphen, excuse me, but you put a number and then you put like a backslash or forward slash and then another number. Life's too short at the end of the day. Absolutely. We use that whenever you draw a line, your intention is to divide. So when people are talking about games that you can and can't play for reasons that you should or shouldn't care about, they're creating those lines which are inherently divisive. And because the entire goal of general outspoken humans is to not be divided and to be considered equal and unified, then the drawing of lines, this culture's, you can't share a celebration of this culture's, or you can't make videos with this theme, or you can't have or use these names because they're intrinsic of a specific heritage. What you do is you show that there are multiple lines that you're willing to create versus a unification. And everybody kind of puts it up, where's the TARDIS when you need? Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's very true. Where's the ability to break through the time and the space and the rules that we have established, right? I agree. But the more people want to try and tell you what you can and can't do, the more divisors are being put out there, then the more divided we are. The more you can tell me what you think I can and can't do, the more you put limits, the more you draw a line between you and me, the more divided we are. It's not rocket science. No, I don't.
Because if you need a crew, I'm your man. Yes. You need a pilot's license to fly the freighters here. I'd greatly appreciate that.
Nice. But I think a lot of people don't really understand that. And a lot of people, to be completely fair, a lot of them are...
Are you... we were expecting he's late.
Let's see.
Thank you. To be honest, I don't even know his name. Some guy named... 50 credits. I was afraid of that. Thank you.
Okay. I'm at a point in my life where I don't care anymore what people think of me or what anyone thinks of me. It's their problem as far as I can see. So I have a similar view, but it's not quite the same. Okay. Okay, thank you. So my take on it is, I don't mind hearing the opinions of other people on me.
Are you one of Sakwesh's men?
The
Overseer, Sakwesh.
Hold on.
I owe Sakwesh. You would? Oh, thank you. Please, hurry.
I'm taking all the side quests here just cause, why not? I don't mind hearing what other people have, the opinion that they have of me, because I can separate legitimate critique. I think he's sick, right?
Welcome, traveler. My name's... I see you're a stranger here.
No, he's not.
You've got the Serico refugees, and on the inner side, you've got the Overseer. Those two have a truce. Only if we enter their territory. It makes things... If you could convince either the Exchange or the Serico... Thanks. Good luck.
I think there's one around here that's sick.
Another refugee? When Telos was bombarded... Back again?
Oh, shoot.
When Telos was bombarded... I think the Sith wanted what you were kind to offer, but unless you can return...
Okay, so she was just someone that was telling me about her. Like my dad always said, don't take crap from anyone who never put too much trust, and never put too much trust in somebody. Yeah, so I mean, that's the idea of it is, for me, the idea of it is I'm open to opinions, even if they're negative opinions of me, because a legitimate critique could help me become better. I could actually be doing something very wrong, and I could need to change that particular habit. But don't come across as preachy or teachy, because there's no indication that what you think is wrong is actually a weakness. That having been said, critiques, negative, positive, or otherwise, in the in-between, doesn't diminish my sense of self-value or self-worth. So if you give me a critique, I might look at it as a learning opportunity or an opportunity to better myself. I may also say that that's information that I disagree with, and I may discard it. Usually I won't be rude when I do. But I'm not going to I'm not going to feel like I'm worse.
Really? Yeah.
We're gonna give you some shots in the leg. I'm gonna give you medicine near you.
Feeling a little better.
That was noble of you to help that sick. I admire your bravery.
What did he give me? He gave me a green crystal? Heck yeah. How'd you find this, man? I appreciate you. And as my late granddad said, people will be people and idiots will be idiots. I'm not having a go at you, by the way. No, that's fine. I don't... Again, there's very little. There's not very little. There's nothing you could say that is going to hurt my feelings. I'm very thick-skinned. But you're not wrong. I mean, the thing about it is people won't fight their own nature because they believe their nature's superior nowadays. Like I said, if you come on and you have a legitimate critique and you talk to me about it, I could look at that and say, okay, this is a person's opinion who I value, and I'm going to make the attempt to change that so that I'm less unpleasant. But I may also look at that and say, hey, I appreciate the advice, and then mentally make a note of it and discard it because I don't feel like that's a legitimate critique. I don't diminish, my sense of self-worth doesn't diminish to me either way. Doesn't change. But people are so interested in quote-unquote educating everybody. And I guarantee you, most of us are not the scholars we fancy ourselves to be. I'm only going by what I've been taught. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm very fortunate insofar as that, genetically speaking, we are gifted that my family seems to live a very long time. So case in point, I won't go into complete detail, but I think it would be fair for me to say that because I know your age, I am older than you by a bit, by quite a bit, and I still happen to have my wait. I happen to still have my grandmother and my great-grandmother and so on and so forth. We just happen to be a long-lived group of people, I guess, genetically speaking. And again, being older doesn't mean anything. It's just a wonder that I still have. It's just a wonder I still have my grandparents and great-grandparents.
Come back! Here so soon? I wasn't... Yeah, well, I had no choice.
Okay. In my experience, age is irrelevant. Age isn't relevant. Well, okay. The only thing age is relevant in, I will say that there is a relevancy, it's the reason I am afraid of time, is that how near to death you may be. That's what's scary. But I agree, age isn't really all that relevant when it comes to... You can be doing something for longer and having done it wrong. And doing something for longer not necessarily meaning for it to be not necessarily it being correct, right? Is not necessarily it being correct. So but the point that I was making in that is just that despite the fact that I am older, and it would seem that reasons that my parentage, grandparentage, and the like would be older as well, which they inevitably would be. It's an interesting fact that they happen to still be alive. That was, I guess, my piece. But I agree, when it comes to experience, knowledge, and general, everyday, age is fairly irrelevant. Competency is the relevant factor. Demonstrated intelligence is the relevant factor. I agree with that. I've learned more by observation and asking questions than I ever did at school. I think that's probably absolutely true. And on top of that, I could argue, and I can't speak for you specifically, but I can argue one of the greatest statements in the lexicon of sentence would be, I don't know. We've got to be comfortable with saying that, and then learning the answer to the question we didn't know. But we're not. We're always so interested in having a correct answer. Or an objective answer, which would steamroll the argument of anyone else. And if that's the objective, then we never get sharper. Sharpening happens because there is metal that whittles away little bits of metal from the other object. We have to be willing to allow ourselves to have negative and fallacious reasonings whittled away from us too, so that we and our reasoning can be sharper. I never knew my great-parents. All of them passed away long before I was born. I'm fortunate in still having mine. They are, at this point, centenarian, but nonetheless, we are gifted insofar as that we have members of the family still that old. Okay, what do we have? We have a ooh. Okay, I do like... I'm gonna take the Matukai. I don't need the... Force Mask is... minus Wisdom and Charisma? That is legitimately the worst thing ever. The only one I have knowledge of is my great-grandfather from my dad's side. He was a railwayman from 50 years, and he fought in both world wars. That's impressive. That's impressive. That's an impressive history to have there. And that's also probably a great story to be handed down from that. So that is awesome. A Defil Mimicker. Stealth +8. Good lord. The Defel are a small bipedal species of mammals who hail from the planet Afel. Because of the bizarre conditions on their homeworld, the Defel naturally appear as vague shadows. This device seeks to duplicate that effect. Opponents must make an awareness check versus the user's stealth skill of +8 or remain unaware of them. The user must have paid points into the stealth skill to gain the use of the stealth mode. Combat disrupts the field, but mundane tasks do not. Wow. That's expensive, but that a +8 to stealth would be amazing. But I'm not playing stealth, so... A Rakatan band. Nice. Or a Rakatan band. My nieces and nephews were dead lucky to know their great-grandfather, that being my granddad. Oh yeah, no, I mean, it's definitely nice to be able to know that, but it's really nice to have family that can tell you that kind of stuff, that can give you the insights to how things were in past. You do have good stuff. Some of it's way overpriced, and not particularly useful to me.
Your thoughts are disturbed. It is Nar Shaddaa. I'm surprised you can feel it. I've what you feel.
Okay.
Strange, but it requires that one be able to...
Let's see.
For as long as it lasts, but let us be silent.
Okay. I think I can gain influence if I ask her about taking control, but... this is going to take me over to where, like, the Jek Tar is and all of that, so... And I'm going to probably get ready to wind things down. Leave it alone. Okay. But yeah, I mean, I think I'm this is... There's a richness in age. There is an experience in age that is interesting. And obviously history is interesting, and there's competency and experience that comes with that, right? Because just because not doing something for a period of time means that, or may mean you weren't doing it correctly. The opposite could also be true. You could be the most proficient for 50 years. So, I've been into railway since I was a little tot, and I didn't start taking it seriously until my granddad told me about my great-grandfather. Well, yeah, knowing that that's the lineage that you had, I would imagine that there's a little bit more, you would have a little bit more credence to pry into the railwayman profession. I had all kinds of... Oh, this is the dancer thing. He's looking for a dancer, but I have to give him one. I have to...
None take.
Okay, fine. I'll see what I can do. I'm not gonna use Handmaiden right away. I usually go out photographing trains, mostly steam and classic traction from the British Rails era, which were beautiful too, by the way. I mean, those are absolutely beautiful, and oftentimes you'll find those even here. You will find many of those that are similar in build, oftentimes hung in offices of that was a good password, thank you, bud. Oftentimes we'll have sepia pictures of those hung in well-established buildings, which is really nice. I didn't realize in here, so in the Jek Tar they don't, but I didn't realize in here they're using the same theme as the Pazak theme from KOTOR 1, which is really cool. It is a Pazak den though, so, which is really nice. Okay, I am going to go ahead and save my game here, I think, and call it. So I'm going to save, overwrite game 5. There we go. All right. Let me bring my microphone in real quick. There we are. Okay, I do apologize for the mic handling noise there just for a second. My great-grandfather was only 16 years old when he signed up for the Royal Navy in World War I, then the Royal Engineers in World War II. Which, that's a level of distinguishment beyond, that's beyond, above and beyond, because a specialty at that period in time in the Royal Navy. And that's pretty impressive, honestly. There's so much more decorum, I think. That's one thing I really like about, and I'm going to say this, hopefully not over-encapsulating, but there's so much more decorum about British and English, and I know those aren't interchangeable terms. I understand British is much more, it covers many more people, right? It covers part of Ireland, Wales, Scotland, I get it. But there's so much more in decorum in the military and in the accolades afforded, right? In America, it's a very it's an overfunded and appreciated group of people, which I find to be really sad. So this was a great live stream. Well, honestly, Dr. Mad Studio, the reason it was such a great live stream is because we had great conversations from people such as yourself and Mr. Ash. And it was a pleasure getting to speak with you and have you here and getting to interact. I do hope that you had fun and that I didn't, that I made sense, hopefully, with my ramblings. But I enjoy that. This is what I do. I do it every Sunday about the same time. For you, I guess it'd be 6 to 7 p.m. For me, it goes usually starting about 12 or 1 p.m. up until about 3 or 4. And that's all I do. I come and I play games. I've been playing KOTOR 2. I'll probably play KOTOR 2 to its conclusion. By the time that's done, Anna and I probably will re-pick up and start playing some other stuff on here. She loves to talk and meet new people and have conversations, so that's just what we like to do. So if you ever decide you want to, you're welcome to stop in. And I had a great time speaking with you. It was great getting to trade opinions and learn more about you. I am going to go ahead and switch over to my ending screen, and please forgive that I don't have my my touch panel, so I'm going to be doing this the old-fashioned way, which I believe I can still do. There we are. We get this nice little cityscape there with our logo in the middle of it. Because why not? It says thank you for watching, and so that way you can see that the message remains towards the end. We are appreciative. Don't forget to check out my friend Terry. No, I absolutely will. There's so many things that he seems to be working on that I'm really excited to see. A lot of different projects that sound really awesome. So I would definitely like to check that out. And I want to make sure I got this. Did I do my thing right there? I don't know if I did that right, but Trio Hammerheads. Yeah, stay safe. Yeah, I absolutely will. Yeah, no, I'm excited. I'll check it out. Terry on Tuesday, I think you said, is one of the places I can find him. So I'll see if I can't go and run in and figure out what all he's got going. Of course, you've told me about the stuff he had going, so I'd be happy to check that out. That'd be awesome. But you have a wonderful day. Ash, have a wonderful day. Anyone else who comes in here who happens to see this after the fact, I hope you guys all have a wonderful rest of your weekend, a wonderful day. I want to say thank you so much for checking the channel out, whether you were here live, like Dr. Matt's studio and Ash Plays Games, or whether you come in after the fact. I hope you guys do have a wonderful day, though, a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you guys next time.